history, so there's nothing to watch.
Okay.
We don't have to do that. It's just a little intro.
It was a joke. Well, we do need to talk beforehand because this is the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
So we need to have something.
Yeah, we need to do our intro before we go into the episode.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You just said we don't need to do that. That was a lie.
Well, I said if you don't want to do that, we don't have to have that be part of the format. We have that as part of our format.
That's typically what we do.
I know.
Why would we change it?
If we don't like it.
But we do like it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, then I don't
well then just go.
Okay. Well, then
we don't have to do that. I don't care.
You absolutely.
No, I'm not doing it now. Figure it out. Figure out what we're doing.
No, that can be the start.
No, I refuse.
The average person will spend over a third of their life in the office. So it withstands to think that, of course, there should be a television show that captures our lives behind the desk, within the cubicle walls, and having to put up with annoying bosses. I'm Kevin.
I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast where a brother and sister team go through all of the things pop culture in different genres to determine whether or not the subject at hand belongs on your shelf, both physical and digital. And today, we are going to start another journey in the television realm. We are going to... Well, I guess I shouldn't say. I should let you say, Rachel, what we're doing, because that's the way we usually do this.
I mean, you kind of summed it up right there at the beginning, though.
I did. I teased it, but I mean, I can't think of another show that we're doing news radio. I don't know.
Well, just so you don't get confused, we are doing The Office.
The U.S. version.
Yes, the U.S. version. The U.S. version
because we're Americans.
The Office. Well, I mean... I just haven't watched the other one. I mean, I guess maybe that might be something we have to do now to compare.
We're headed up to Scranton, Pennsylvania, to walk into the Dunder Mifflin office.
Which is a paper company, by the way.
A mid-size regional paper company, Dunder Mifflin. And we are going to discuss The Office Season 1. So we're beginning the discussion of The Office Season 1, which I think... We have a lot of feelings about The Office in general. I think we have a lot of opinions about it in general. But we are going to start from the beginning, and we are going to go over each episode. For those of you that are new, that might have stumbled upon the podcast because you were looking for a good Office podcast, and you were like, I love The Office Ladies, or if there's other Office podcasts out there. But Rachel, this was one of those shows where... But when I agreed with you that, like, okay, we can try it. We can try this a podcast thing. I was like, there are certain shows out there, not The Simpsons, because The Simpsons has 1 million podcasts.
Right.
But there's other things that I very much enjoy that do not have dedicated podcasts. And the reason that I wanted to do said podcast was because... There just aren't there aren't walkthroughs that critique the thing that are fair for all these, and maybe there are. And folks at home, if there is an Office podcast out there other than Office Ladies, because I'm gonna tell you, Rachel, I'm sure it's great. I've listened to like 5 minutes of one.
I've never listened to it.
I'm sure it's great.
They're probably fun.
Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsley. If you we'll come on your show if you'll come on ours.
Oh, absolutely. I bet they're fun to like just hang out with.
But my issue with that is that they are connected to the show, so they're not going to have a fan third-person non-connected view of the show.
Right. Yeah.
And later this volume we're doing South Park. I don't know of a really good South Park podcast. Not to say that our podcast is very good or anything like that. I'm just saying.
How dare you?
This was one of my put the glove on Thanos and do it yourself moments was when you do The Office. Rachel, what's your history? What's your background with The Office, in particular season 1, but just in general for the show, because we're not going to do this every season.
Well, I don't know if I really have like a background. I kind of just remember watching it when I was younger, before getting a job. So, I mean, watching The Office pre-job, and then now having a career of some sort, it's different. So you kind of get a different perspective on the show, just from that in general.
There's an episode that we won't do for a while. It's like in season 3 or 4, where I'll just tell us now, where the one where spoiler alert for season 3 of The Office, the one branch is going to close because the one guy like leveraged the Scranton promotion to get a...
Oh, yeah.
And I remember as like a kid watching it, or a teenager college kid being like, Jim Halpert's right. And then as an like, adult we're watching it, you're like, what? He didn't do anything that bad. What are you talking about? Because you're right. Your perspective does shift.
It changes because you kind of like
as you
understand
go through these things.
Right. You kind of like, oh, right. Like, wait, well, I kind of understand that perspective now.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird. It's not the same, mind you.
So that, for me, is one of the reasons that we wanted to do this kind of an experiment, or this kind of a show, was to get our own opinion, or at least our own truth.
Our own take,
yeah, out there, and to be able to do it like step by step like we do with everything else. But this was definitely one of those shows I wanted my own version of it so that I could listen to somebody talk about The Office.
That doesn't sound egotistical at all.
Well, if somebody else could do it, but I was like, I guess I'm going to have to do it myself. Or we're going to have to do it ourselves.
Right.
So
here we are.
I'll give you a little bit of background of where I come from with The Office. This particular first season, but the show in general, was something that I watched with my roommate in college ad nauseum. And it was because, for the most part, I had the DVDs in the dorm room, and then we would watch the live show, of course, on Thursday nights. So I did not watch season 1 when it was live, or when it first premiered. I was in high school when it first premiered. I was in high school for season 2. It was a while before we got into college, but I think it was one of my teachers that suggested it to like a group of my friends to like watch The Office or something like that.
Interesting.
And I think that's how we ended up watching The Office. So I got attached to it in season 2, and then I bought the DVD before I went to school. I don't remember why or when I bought the DVD, but I bought the season 1 DVD. So then we had it. We were in the dorms, and of course then we ended up getting a season 2 DVD, and we watched it like crazy. This caused a weekly tradition for my roommate and I. We did the entire time we were there, which was Taco Bell Thursdays.
I like
It's
it.
a grand tradition that my roommate and I had, where we worked at the same place during school. We would work after class, and it would get done at like 6:30 or so. We would get done at work. You know, this little part-time thing that we would do. We actually had kind of a cool job that we'll talk about probably in a different episode.
Yeah, you probably could.
And on Thursday nights, we would walk to our apartment, or if one of us happened to drive to our where we worked, we would take a car. We would immediately go to Taco Bell. We would get a stupid amount of food for the two of us, and we would watch The Office.
Sounds like a fun time.
Taco Bell Thursdays. So Office was a key part of that. But most of these episodes for season 1 I have pretty well memorized. And Community became part of that tradition, of course, too, when it came on the air.
Keep that...
Parks and Rec too. But, like,
Both of those are on the list.
They're on the list, and more stay tuned than you'd think. Not really. Probably more on the list. So anyway, for me, The Office is one of those shows that has some nostalgia for it. I think there's a very, very distinct point. This isn't necessarily The Simpsons when it comes to Golden Age and then all the rest of the seasons, where the Golden Age for certain different people is different times.
Yeah.
This, for me, and I think most people agree, there's a clear point.
Oh, there's a
When then the show should have probably wrapped
just been
up.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think so. You'll get my opinion later on in the seasons of that one, but
Maybe even this season.
potentially. But I mean, there is definitely a point where it's just like, I'm done.
So, do you have any recollection about it, or was it just kind of osmosis?
It was just kind of on.
Yeah.
And then I would
It's
assume
on
like
so much now.
Well, now it's just constantly on.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. But I think it was mostly when like you would come home from school and we'd watch it together, or
Probably.
like if I watched it with our parents, and
Yeah.
when it was on type of thing. It was just like when it was on. Like I knew it and I knew the story and we'd watch it together. So it's probably because of you. It's always everything's because of you.
Sure. I mean, it's an easier show to pick up because it's not you need to watch it in order.
No, you don't really need to. I mean, if you want to get some of the stuff that it like does callbacks later on, but otherwise, no, they pretty much stand alone. You could watch them.
The fact that it is so out there and like so syndicated and like people were like so excited when it was on Netflix and then moved over to we watched, for those of you that want to watch these before we do the walkthroughs, we watched the superfan edits on the cock. So it's the cock, Rachel.
It's just I don't know. There's something awkward about it.
And also, I also, because I already mentioned I own the DVDs, so I watched the DVD version
right,
too.
Yeah. And you watched like any of the...
I kind of like these superfan edits.
It's interesting.
Interesting. We'll point out when I kind of think some of the TV edits are better.
Right.
And some of the superfan edits, I like what they kept in.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends. But it's an interesting thing to have, the ability to stream that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I
will also say, as someone that, as a millennial that had to use dating apps, and still does, that as of this recording, that...
Look them up, ladies.
Yeah, that's right. I am single. So the amount of people my age, or like in my age range, or even like younger, that became fans of The Office over the last like decade after the show went off the air because of syndication and streaming. This is how I judge things, because I judge what people put in their profiles, and they'll put quotes from like The Office. And I've told my roommate this too, my old roommate this too. I feel like it's that hipster thing where it's like, I watched The Office like back in the day. I was in high school when I watched that show, and now you're putting the crap on Tinder? Like, get with the program. Like, you're just a fake Office fan.
I mean, it's blown up for people. People love it. They kind of worship the show at this point. Which I don't really get.
Yeah, and I think that will be an interesting dynamic, because for you, you're like an agnostic fan that can like watch it and appreciate, right?
Well, I can go back and watch the episodes, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm somebody that really adored them at one point, and like you're saying, like, I'll put it on in the background.
Yeah.
Like, whenever it's on, like, and I'm doing something, I'll just, The Office is on, I'll just put it on in the background.
Sure, I mean, it's just always on TV, so you might as well just keep that channel.
Yeah. But I haven't, like... and again, this is why we have the show, like, gone back and, like, reflected upon them, like, as much. So it is interesting that it has, like, blown up. Because at one point, like, when this show was first on, it was underrated as hell. It was underviewed.
It really was. It was one of those where it's like, I don't know, that Office show. And it's like, no, really, you should watch it. It's, like, interesting. It's funny.
But it had to become a cult thing.
Yeah. I that's probably a good way to say it. I think that makes more sense.
I think that's where it's landed.
That's where it's landed.
When it
started... But I really want to know, like, do they love the entire thing? Do they love every single season? Are they only, like, watching chunks?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that, like...
I mean, folks at home, let us know. I mean,
pulls them in.
Obviously, like we said, we're going to go through season 1. But, I mean, let us know, what's your Office timeline? Is it all 100 and however many episodes it is?
Do you hate it? Why do you hate it?
Do you think people hate it? Do you think there's haters
I bet
of The
there's
Office?
Haters. I mean, when it falls off, I kind of...
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, just in
I don't
general,
hate it, but I
just
mean,
in
it
general,
just annoys me
show.
at this point. There's probably people who hate it.
Annoys,
why not? There's people who hate everything.
Because your husband will put it on in the background.
Oh my god, he always does.
Yeah, so you just are it's overexposed.
It's overexposed for me. But, well, I think... I would say that everything has somebody who loves it, and there's somebody who hates it.
Right. Every episode that we do is somebody's main event.
Yes.
And, like, their top main event.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. Tell me about it. We have that website now. Go over there. Write some stuff. Tell us about it.
So, yeah.
Write in at shelflifethepodcast.
Hang on. She's doing her plugs.
At gmail.com.
Do her plugs. Let her plug in.
Tweet at us.
Here she goes.
We have a Twitter. We don't really use it. But you can tweet at us.
You guys suck.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We got your download. The original Office was a show made in the UK by Stephen Merchant and Ricky Gervais. That original show went on for only 13 episodes, over 2 seasons, as UK sitcoms do. Rachel, I think that you enjoy the UK stuff more than I do.
I do, but I haven't watched theirs.
I think that you would say, though, that 13 episodes is like a typical kind of run for... Yeah, like that's
normal.
not... Yeah, and in the US, for our international audience, the US television standby is always as many episodes as you can and as many seasons as you can because you want syndication rights. Because you want that thing to be playing after school and during dinner on like local television stations across the country because that's where the real money's at. So doing something for only 13 episodes, you're not going to get that. You need it to be like 100 episodes to be able to like get that sweet syndication right money. But they only did 13 episodes of that. It's exactly what the US Office is. It's this mockumentary style of The Office, but a UK version of it. And in the UK, it's more or less a mockumentary and a satire of these like real life like office documentary things.
Interesting.
That were
so they actually had like real...
Yeah, something like that. Like a day in the life of a UK office worker.
Okay. I could see that. I could see it.
Where like that generated. I've heard that, and they say it on the commentaries throughout these two, that like they were afraid that David Brent was too kind of like cruel. Like even Ricky Gervais was like, is he too cruel? And in the second season of that show, they had to make him like more of a buffoon. And I think that they kind of got that too with the character in the US. Like we have to make him more buffoonish because the American audience is going to say he's too unlikable. There's nobody to root for.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you hate your boss, you hate your boss. But if he's a buffoon, at least you can make fun of him.
I could definitely see that too. Like, I think
right. I mean, that's kind of the thing that I would imagine for the adult audience with this show. Yeah. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, but in a UK audience, I feel like would have more tolerance for a character that's like super seems meaner and like a meaner tone than in an American
yeah,
audience.
I could. Well, yeah, I think American
that's
typical. They wouldn't accept
with
it.
Them.
Yeah.
There's shows that American audiences watch for sure that all the characters are like miserable pricks.
Oh yeah.
But there's usually like something
but
lovable about them.
Right. There's like
Seinfeld.
There's some type of
right. It's getting cut.
There's usually some sort of roundness to the character, something that's like interesting or in the background that you kind of have to like you read between the lines, and it's interesting. It makes that character interesting. But if they're just a jackass to be a jackass, no, why would I like that character?
So Greg Silverman, a producer in the States, sent Greg Daniels a tape of Ricky Gervais's and Stephen Merchant's UK Office show. Greg Daniels, we haven't really talked about yet, but we will, because he was a Simpsons writer and producer. He made King of the Hill, co-made King of the Hill. So obviously, remember my thing about the Simpsons kind of has this tree that goes kind of to everything,
pokes their holes in everything.
Yep. So this is one of those things, and Greg Daniels watches it, thinks it's great, and NBC and all the channels right now are kind of in this like state of flux between sitcoms that were in the 90s and the early 2000s and all this reality TV stuff coming out. So it's like this in-between time for television. Greg Daniels decides to meet with Merchant and Gervais. They liked The Simpsons, of course.
Of course.
So they are like, yeah, we'll meet with Greg Daniels. Greg Daniels wants to do our show. I think we're okay with that.
Okay.
Because we like what Greg Daniels does with Simpsons and King of the Hill, so he should be able to get the tone right for The Office if it needs to be made. And of course it's going to be made because the U.S. remakes everything from around the world and puts their own U.S. spin on it. I've noticed that with everything, though. I think everywhere around the world just kind of takes it and like puts the cultural spin on it and kind of does their own thing.
Yeah, I mean it kind of makes sense because then you want it to fit in with their own culture,
yeah.
that area. You want this, but it doesn't really work because it's like people don't really get it. It doesn't make sense.
Twist.
But like, let's put a twist on it. Okay, now it kind of fits in with us. So cool, people like it.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, NBC needed something. Friends was leaving. Frasier was leaving. Scrubs had debuted.
Oh, Scrubs.
Mm-hmm.
I never think about. Every once in a while, somebody brings up Scrubs.
Yeah, you putting that on the list?
We can talk about it.
She's thinking. She's she's got the notebook out. She's thinking about writing it down. She's considering it.
I'll write it down. I'll write it down.
It might be further down the list than I wonder if that one holds up.
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those medical shows. That's a comedy medical show.
I wonder if that's
and then you have Grey's Anatomy, which is still going.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was still going.
Folks at home, we're not doing Grey's Anatomy because it's like Law and Order. There's too goddamn much. We might spotlight an episode
know.
here
Yeah, I was
going
to say, let us know what episodes we could do with that one. But holy crap! Like, I didn't know that was still going.
Scrubs might be one of those where we don't do the whole episode
that might not
by
be the
episode.
whole thing either.
It might be like select.
I think that's going to be a select.
Yeah, a shelf life selects. Shelf life selects.
Shelf life selects. Oh, I like it.
We have these shows that we do. We're
down.
going to do everything because we said we are, and we are. But there also are going to be shows out there where we're just going to do some selections. Where the hell was I? Oh, so Scrubs. Scrubs wasn't a 3-camera sitcom. Scrubs was a 1-camera sitcom. There was no studio audience. There was no laugh track. It was different.
Yeah, I liked the viewpoint on that one.
And it worked.
Mm-hmm.
It was something new. It was something fresh. So NBC was willing to do it because they were like, well, this other thing worked. It's not a traditional sitcom. Why don't we try this? It's a non-traditional sitcom. Maybe it'll work for us. We're looking to do something new anyway. Greg Daniels gets to work. They get Ken Kwapis to direct the pilot. Ken Kwapis was part of he worked on Survivor,
okay.
So he was used to that, having to do things in the moment, making it look like a documentary,
almost like a reality show.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to do the casting, they got Allison Jones. Allison Jones does the casting for most comedies in the aughts. She does, like, the 4-Year-Old Virgin stuff, all the Judd Apatow crap, Arrested Development. I don't know if it was Arrested Development. She had Freaks and Geeks for sure. But all of those, like, mid-aughts. So they go to work trying to find people to do this. So I wrote down a list of some of the people that they did try to find for different...
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, so... If you had to guess who they... So
okay.
They wrote the script.
We have game time.
They
Here we
wrote
go.
the script. And they were... they had writers. Greg Daniels, of course, puts together like a Simpsons-esque team of people that he knows. And they needed to find their version of Jim Halpert and Dwight Schrute and Michael Scott, all of these people. So if I give you the names of a couple of these different people...
I'm excited now. Okay.
If you can guess what the character they were trying out for is. Okay? You might not know some of these names, but Judah Friedlander, Seth Rogen, and Patton Oswalt all tried out for this character.
Seth Rogen?
Yeah, I was surprised too. But they actually had Dwight. Dwight. Yeah, so they all tried out for Dwight, which is surprising because they have the footage of Seth Rogen doing the...
Oh, that's so interesting. I would love to see that.
But it ends up going to Rainn Wilson, who is this little-known actor at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch the behind-the-scenes, like, casting footage. People on YouTube have put it up, and it might be on the DVDs. Seth Rogen does, like, a fine job of it, but, like, the second that they cut to Rainn Wilson, it's like, it's
just him.
Dwight. Like, he understands that character.
Yeah.
Kathryn Hahn also tried to play Pam Beesly.
Okay.
But Pam came in, and Jenna Fisher has this. I'm sure she tells this on her own podcast, which go check that out, folks. I'm sure she tells this story because she told it in the commentary in the pilot, where she says that Allison Jones called her up and told her, like, come in to read for this part. Don't put on any makeup. Don't try to make me laugh. Don't try to make anybody laugh. Play it straight. And she thought it was really weird that was like the direction, but then obviously because
it makes sense though.
She did that. It makes sense for the character. And they told, I think it was...
Plus, like, all of it, it's kind of like, the only one who's truly trying to make you laugh is Michael Scott. Yeah. And the rest of them are just working. Mm-hmm. And living.
One thing that she mentions from the commentary, too, or Greg Daniels might have mentioned it, was that somebody asked her, like, do you enjoy being a receptionist? And she says, like, and typically she was, like, ready to do the improv thing where you say yes and blah, 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 blah. Like, you come up with something funny to say. Mm-hmm. And she just goes, no, and says nothing else. And that was, like, one of their, like, oh, that was, like, perfect. Because she didn't try, like, it felt real. Because she was like, no.
I mean, true to the character.
Yeah.
It's just a job.
For this character, Adam Scott, Asif Manvi, and Paul Rudd all were up for the role.
Oh, that's gotta be Jim.
Hey, Jim Halpert.
That has to be Jim.
Yeah, all were up for the role of Jim Halpert.
And only because of Paul Rudd would I have guessed that.
Yeah. I could see Adam Scott doing it too.
Yeah.
Maybe. Except I feel like he'd be too old at the part. I don't know why.
Probably.
Jim Halpert, played by John Krasinski. Krasinski got the role. His story, of course, you never know if these stories are real, as we always say.
Of course, but I mean, they're fun stories anyway.
His story is that he was sitting in the room to do the reading, and there was another guy in there, and the guy asked him, like, "Are you nervous about not getting the role?" And he said, "Well, you either get these things or you don't, but I'm actually more nervous that they're going to screw up the show." Because the UK version is great, and I'm worried that the US version, that they'll screw it up.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then he said that the other guy in the room goes, "Well, I'm Greg Daniels. I'm creating the show."
Oh, that would be so that's hard to say if that would be real, but at the same time, could you imagine like actually being truthful? And then it's like,
but at the same time, as the creator, you almost are like, I kind of want to hire the guy because he's
actually
has
genuine
some investment in wanting to make this good.
Right.
There's also a claim that Peter Dinklage was going to play a role on the show,
Ooh.
almost like a Jan Levinson.
I kind of would have loved that
role.
I do love Peter
Dinklage would have been pretty good at it.
He's fantastic,
and it would have been funny to see
anything.
him in a Jan Levinson type role too.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's only one more character here, but it came down to...
this is what I want to know. Okay, who? We obviously know this is from Michael Scott, so...
Yes. They asked Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Giamatti if they wanted to be Michael Gary Scott, and they both turned it down.
Because of the way they would play it, I think they even thought, like, well, I'd have to play it a specific way.
I would be interested into seeing what those would be, but
I could see
Paul
them
Giamatti
being bosses.
Maybe, I don't know how Philip Seymour Hoffman would have done that. I'm fascinated by this alternate universe where he plays Michael Scott. Because I can see it and I can't. It's like very weird.
But it would be so... I think it would be...
He's too intimidating.
Yes, I think that's it. I think that's what it would be. I think it would be because he'd be very quiet. I don't think he'd be as obnoxious as Steve Carell is, because I think he'd be very like
mint chocolate chip. I just love a good mint chocolate chip ice cream.
I mean, I guess if you think of him as like,
I got this at Spencer's Gifts. It says "World's Best Boss" on it. It says everything.
I don't think it would work.
I want to know.
Now,
I don't know why, but
the other one,
Paul Giamatti.
I
could see it, but he's
too comedian.
He's too not intimidating, because he'd be like, "Oh my god, I don't know how to run this company."
Everybody would just be like,
he'd be too much
constantly.
of a pushover. So it became between Steve Carell and Bob Odenkirk, who you've seen in stuff. He's Better Call Saul.
I know his face.
Yeah,
see, I never watched Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul.
Yeah. So Bob Odenkirk and Steve Carell, and Bob Odenkirk has he does a little bit too in a reading, like a screening, too. But you see the Steve Carell one versus him too, and you're less like, no, that's Michael Scott. When Steve Carell starts talking, he does this like bit about like filler words, and it just sounds like something that Michael would do. So he's like, "Do you know what a filler word is?" And then at the end he just goes like, "What was the context that I said it in?" Like he can't even think of it. So the other thing that Greg Daniels decides to do is, with all of the writers on staff, he had writers on staff that were good enough at comedy or had like a comedic background. Mm-hmm. So he was like, well, let's just make all the writers be the background characters. So they get Paul Lieberstein to be Toby. They made Phyllis be the Phyllis on the show.
I love her.
She was an assistant to Allison Jones.
Yeah.
And they get BJ Novak came on as a writer, and Mindy Kaling was a writer. Mm-hmm, so they had all these people that were like, well, let's just get all these guys. So it was probably done cheaper that way too, because they weren't like true like credit acting.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then just like all of these different people came together. So they got 6 episodes to do, which came out in the spring of 2005 as this mockumentary. Dunder Mifflin, the crew is in, and it's shot exactly like a documentary would be. In fact, in this season 1, they're like slavish to the documentary style, where like they don't allow angles and stuff that wouldn't work if the camera would get in the so they're
which is interesting, and it's kind of fun that way.
Yeah, so it had to be a bit different to be able to see it live. I mean, even as a teenager, it was like, okay, this is different than the shit, because in my opinion, this is like a shit section of television. This like reality. I hate reality television.
I'm not a big fan. No.
I thought it was just the dregs. Like,
it's usually just something to make fun of every once in a while, but at the same time, I don't want to really watch it.
And I'm sure I watched like those crappy MTV reality shows for girls, but because I mean, yeah, because you had to. Because where else am I going to see girls?
All right, calm down. I don't want to hear that.
But the reality television shows are terrible. So like seeing something on TV that was like, oh, it's like different and good and funny, and it has a wit to it.
Right, I like a wit.
It's a rapist wit. So it's from Dumb and Dumber. So anyway, they came out with their 6 episodes, and we'll get into what happened at the end of those seasons. But the first episode is the pilot, which we will walk through after the break.
Well, I don't know which characters people are going to like. There might be characters like mine that people like to hate. There might be characters that people enjoy being annoyed by. There's Pam, who's our receptionist. She's kind of hot in a mousy way. There's Jim, her potential love interest. I'm sure we'll drag that out for the next 7 or 8 years. And maybe they'll kiss in the 8th season, and that's when the show will go down the tubes. There are a lot of kind of incidental characters, too, which we hope over time will develop, and you'll see more of the people within the office. So there are lots of different types that you're going to see. Most of them are slightly insane.
And the office... I don't... Okay.
You tried so hard.
I couldn't do a Michael Scott thing. We're back with The Office Season 1. The pilot episode of The Office, debuting on March 24th, 2005, written by Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, because it's just a shot-for-shot remake, basically, of their pilot episode, and Greg Daniels, because Greg Daniels, of course, changed all the names and stuff, and directed by Ken Kwapis, like we already said. So, where to begin here with the Office pilot episode? I think we first have to talk about the doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, which is such a simple little melody.
It is good.
But it does kind of fit. It does kind of fit. One thing that I remember, I think it's in a Wisecrack video, Wisecrack on YouTube. Mm-hmm. They do a thing about the philosophy of The Office at some point, and they talked about, I think they said this. I could be getting it wrong. I thought it was them. Where they said that the UK office was more geared toward how, and UK listeners, let me know if this is true or not. UK listeners view work as like, what a pain in the ass. Like, we have to work, and this sucks, and this place is miserable, and that's like how the UK office kind of satires work. Whereas the office in the US, eventually, the season 1's more like that, but eventually the office kind of becomes like this very Americanized view of work, which is, yeah, this sucks, but we're all in this together, so we're all going to
we're kind of trapped here for
and
most
we might as well
of the
try
day.
to have fun with each other.
Yeah.
And I get that. I think I do kind of get that.
I understand it, because, I mean, you're stuck with them for more hours in the day than not.
Yeah, so that was like Wisecrack's thing of like the philosophy of work and stuff like that.
But I do feel the same way as the UK. Yeah,
of course.
I understand that
of
feeling.
Course you do.
Yeah.
But the intro music does have like that, like kind of like perfect melody for that type of idea, where it's like, this is a very simple little office,
right?
And these are just people that are just trying to have fun while they're at work, or trying to get by. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's interesting about the intro is all the footage of Scranton and stuff was taken by John Krasinski and his friends. Went to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and they just shot this footage.
Oh, that's kind of
fun. And Greg Daniels just kind of used it in. It almost kind of works because you can almost think of it as the documentary crew driving through Scranton
And getting some
and
B-roll.
finding, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of works that way.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that one, so that's actually new to me. I like it.
Yeah, it's a nice little tidbit.
Look at that little tidbit.
Like little tidbits out there. So the pilot begins with the first scene is Michael talking to Jim about his quarterlies. And it's obvious that Michael is trying to act like a good boss in front of Jim and for the camera. Because you can tell he kind of looks over at the camera a couple of times during the conversation. And then Michael is trying to help Jim close some sort of sale. And at the end of the call, which Michael does end up getting the sale to come through.
Right.
Which might be kind of foreshadowing of the differences between David Brent and Michael Scott, because in the UK version, David Brent's just an idiot. And in this version, to keep the show going, they needed him to have a reason to be
idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he does get the sale to go through, but at the end of the call, he misgenders the person.
Right.
He thinks that he was talking to a man, but it was actually a woman. And he goes, probably a smoker. But he's like, that's the way it's done. So he's really proud of himself that he was able to...
Well, at least he apologized, too. It's not like he said anything ignorant to the person.
That happens.
But behind their back.
I'm not a man. Then Michael talks to the camera. We get our first talking head, which is something that is the first of these television shows that I've seen that kind of do these things, at least in like a sitcom format, where you get somebody doing like a confessional type of thing where they do like soliloquies almost about their like thoughts and feelings in front of the camera. So this is Michael's first one. He says that he's been there for 12 years, 4 as regional manager, Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. So we get the logo for Dunder Mifflin, we get all of that kind of stuff. We get Michael. Rachel, do you want to describe Michael Scott? Just kind of in general, his appearance, his attitude, his personality.
Okay.
Rachel's trying to come up with words that aren't idiot.
I mean, he looks like a buffoon. No.
He looks like a
He
baboon.
has a greased head, like his hair is greased back.
Yes.
So you can kind of see like it looks like a receding hairline. Yeah. So I mean, he's got a larger forehead. But he's got it greased back, and he's wearing a suit that kind of looks like it's a little too big.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think they're trying to make him look kind of fat. And so they like have him wear like a suit that's too big.
Always looks too tight.
Yeah, because he always is giving himself like a double chin. Yeah,
yes. Yeah. So if that's what they're going for, they've done it.
But I mean, it is just Steve Carell.
Sure.
But they are making him try to look like a used car salesman.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
He looks like a used car salesman. So like too big of a suit because he can't afford a tailor, and he has his hair greased back.
And he's a obnoxious human being.
Oh yes.
He cannot help himself. Like doing everything, he has to be obnoxious.
Right.
And he introduces us to different members of the office, starting with Pam. So
obnoxious. And she already looks annoyed with him.
Yeah, she's okay at first because he's like, you've been here forever. And she's kind of doing like sometimes it feels like it kind of thing.
Right.
And then he says, if you think she's cute now, you should have seen her a few years ago. And
which, oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, it just completely inappropriate and on every level at all times is this character. She tells him that he got a fax from corporate. And Michael, trying to act funny and being the entertainer that he is.
Especially for the camera.
Oh, yeah, especially for the camera. I think the camera makes him worse.
Oh, I think it makes him 10 times worse.
And he tries to act funny by throwing the fax behind Pam into
his
the way
special,
yes,
his special organizational cabinet.
Yes. And the other thing about it is, and he thinks that he won because Pam looks like horrified that he did this on her face, and he thinks that's hilarious.
Of course,
because he's just a bumbling idiot.
Yeah,
he lacks self-awareness.
Yeah.
Rachel, Pam Beasley, your thoughts on Pam being the main female protagonist of the show?
She's cute. They make her look kind of cute and just kind of relaxed. So she
plain girl next door kind of thing.
Yeah. Very plain. So I mean, like, she just kind of wears business attire, has her hair back in like a half up, half down,
But
just
she's like
kind
this
of
a
very
playful,
casual.
artsy.
Yeah, she is playful in arts. We find out that she is artistic and like
She has watercolors.
right. She paints.
Yeah.
So I mean that's cool.
Jenna Fisher was like 30, 31.
Oh, okay.
So that's like I'm assuming.
They actually
so.
like put like people with like age brackets that make sense in this.
For like a office like
Yeah.
this. Yeah. But you can always put yourself in the different roles. Like
no,
I'm
you can't.
coming
It's
up,
just interesting.
I'll be Michael Scott's age sooner or later, and it's horrifying to think about that.
It's horrifying.
It is horrifying. So then, we get a classic, in my opinion. The first classic Michael Scott soliloquy and moment.
Right.
And it is his discussion about getting the world's best boss mug.
Yep.
Because he thinks he is the world's best boss, and he can
He
prove
says
it.
they all say he's the world's best.
That's right.
boss.
People say I am the best boss. They go, God, we've never worked in a place like this before. You're hilarious. And you get the best out of us. I think that pretty much sums it up. I found it at Spencer Gifts.
And he picked up the mug at
That
Spencer's,
says it.
at Spencer's Gifts.
He got it for himself, mind you.
Yes, but that proves it, because he has the mug, so
Right.
of course that proves it.
That means that's who you are.
Then we get to meet the other couple of main characters. Dwight
The salesman.
K. Schrute is putting together his phone. Like, it's very bizarre. Like, does he, like, take his phone apart every day?
Maybe he puts down his desk every day. I don't know why you would do that, because don't you want to get the messages and stuff? I mean, I guess you still would, but at the same time, I'm just like, that seems so weird.
It's so weird. But, I mean, we'll find out more about Dwight Schrute.
Dwight's weird.
Dwight is a...
Weird.
He's
a
I don't
weird
know how to
individual.
describe him.
He looks like a dork.
Yes, he
Like
has,
that-
he
he
has
is-
his hair parted in the middle. He wears
He is
glasses.
he is that
always wears
stereotypical dork. He's
short
got aviator
sleeve.
glasses.
Yeah.
They're not sunglasses. They're just regular like aviator big 80s glasses.
Yes. And he wears short sleeve button down shirts every
Oh my
single
god,
day.
yes, with a tie. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the antagonist to what I would say is the protagonist of The Office. At least the show wants you to believe he's the main character. He's the protagonist.
Right. It's kind of like it's from his perspective almost.
That's a good way to put
I
it.
think that's kind of where like the documentary's like, "Oh, we like this character and he gives us a lot of like
he's the straight man.
he gives us a lot." So they can kind of show the characters from his perspective.
Mm-hmm. And that's Jim Halpert, played by John Krasinski. Jim,
Who is that like, oh, he's the cute like guy with
yeah.
the shaggy hair and
there's a generation of women that are still trying to find their Jim Halpert.
He is adorable. But
So my roommate and I went through like a phase, probably within the last 10 years, where we're like, man, Jim is kind of a bully. But
Sometimes.
now like revisiting it, I'm like, God,
he's very
fucking
flirty.
Dwight.
And he's very like
Him and Pam have an interesting.
yes.
Sometimes I think that I would have thought like, oh, he's taking it too far with Dwight, but then sometimes it's like
Well,
Dwight
I
is
think-
such a fucking spaz.
The thing is, I think it's kind of an unwritten relationship where they both are okay with bullying each other almost, kind of. It's kind of like
they're very antagonistic
in
in this
this.
episode.
Oh, they're really
I was
bad in this.
shocked.
I think it's kind of like we prank each other and that's our relationship.
That's how it becomes.
Yes.
For sure.
In this, it
They
is
don't
kind
like each other.
no, they don't like
Which
each
is
other.
weird though, because well, see, this is the evolution that we'll have when we revisit future seasons. Because I
I mean, I don't
get what
think
you're
I don't
saying.
even know if they ever like each other, but at the same time, I feel like they
show
have.
those, at some point
those
Jim shows a
moments.
picture of when they like both started and they were like junior salesmen and they're like
Yeah.
both kind of like smiling, like going out. They know each other. They go for on sales calls with each other. They know each
Yeah, it
other's
is.
like
But that's the thing.
how to
they
work with
know
each
they know
other.
how to work with each other as like business people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's that outside of that zone relationship that is like
Yeah, they wouldn't-
it's
yeah.
just it clashes.
Sure.
So it's the that's why they have to prank each other.
Sure.
And that's why they have to be like
it's the difference.
constantly butting heads at that point.
difference between showing The Office and The Office and The Office and Parks and Rec, where it's like different
Yes.
people, which that's on the list too.
Right. Of course.
But the way that people with different personalities get along or don't get along. In this, it's played very straight of, I'm annoyed by this weirdo.
Right.
Something in Parks and Rec where it's a heightened reality is more like we're playing with this person, with like Jerry or something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Well,
Jerry's a completely different character. There's not a Dwight character on this show.
There isn't a Dwight.
So maybe it's not a good comparison.
It might not be a good comparison.
I don't know what a good comparison would
because
be.
I think
It's a very unique.
If we look at Parks and Rec, so Jerry is the person that you blame for everything. Dwight is the person that, well, they do blame Dwight for everything, but they usually do that on purpose because they put it on him to do it and then get it wrong.
Yeah. No, Jerry is more like Kevin.
Yeah.
Than anything else. I think it's a very unique.
It's kind of hard to say.
It's hard to say if there's
that's
another...
why. So that, which is nice because they aren't like, oh, look at the parallels.
Yeah.
You can't really do that. So I mean, like here we have just Dwight, the very obnoxious, very passionate about the things he likes person, looks like stereotypical dork, and then Jim, who's kind of just that flippant, fun guy,
everyman.
Yeah.
He does not like his job.
He doesn't like his job, so having this person who's like very into being the sales guy is kind of annoying.
Right, exactly. And we get a talking head with Jim where he explains himself, he explains his job, he explains he doesn't like his job, and he talks about in a very sarcastic manner that if he were not to be able to have the job, then literally dozens of people would go paperless. There'd be total chaos. Or they could go to Staples or something and get their
Right.
Dwight is practicing answering his phone, which is... I was like, what the hell is he doing? He's practicing answering his phone. And he's trying to do it in like kind of like a cool guy manner. It's
like
so odd.
speedy and cool guy.
We get a Dwight talking head where he talks about how he assists in the managing in the region. And that's a very, very important thing. And we find out just how obsessed he is with work. Because he is. He's a toady.
Work is his life.
Work is his life. He's a complete and utter toady. He's a suck-up. He's a kiss-ass. And he thinks that's how everybody should be when it comes to work. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
Michael comes out and does the what's up with them and tries to get them to do the what's up. And Jim kind of plays along a little bit. And then... I thought it was funny because the problem with Michael and the office and like everybody in the office is that nobody plays with him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
because he wants them.
He wants them to improvise back with
It's
him.
a call and receive.
Yes. So Jim,
and he does the call, but does not receive.
Jim just sits there after it's over, and he doesn't know what to do, so he just stands there for a minute, and then he just goes, "What?" And then he's like, "I didn't say anything." He goes, "Okay," and he just walks away. Rachel, you and I have both worked in office settings over the course of our careers. Mm-hmm. I've not had a boss like Michael Scott. I don't know if I've had people at work maybe be kind of Michael Scott-ish.
Yes. Like parts of Michael Scott, and they kind of do it every once in a while.
Yeah. It is weird when you meet someone that's like does not have that self-awareness to them.
God. Yeah.
You don't know what to do.
I definitely had a boss who was very not self-aware, and he would go on like these rants and tirades like Scott does sometimes, like Michael Scott does sometimes, and you're just like, just let him get it out, and then you just kind of like wait till he wears himself out, and then you go back to work.
He'll wear himself out after a while. I do love the line a few seasons from now when the new people ask, like, how do you guys get your work done? And Phyllis goes, we find little time throughout the day. Michael he goes on a little, tells a little story about playing basketball with Dwight in the park, and they were so good.
A pickup game.
Yeah, pickup game, and these very urban-looking guys came by, and they didn't know what was going to happen, so he started throwing elbows and stuff.
Right.
And we get some shots of the accountants for a second, so we see Kevin eating a bear claw.
Oh, right, yes.
And then here comes Jan.
Which, I mean, that's very office-like. Somebody's always eating a donut or some type of food that's brought into the office.
You need to do that.
Yes.
You need to do that. Folks at home that are like supervisors or something, and you're listening to us, and if you're listening to us on the way to your office,
Bring some good snacks.
maybe stop and get your people some
get some
little
coffees.
snacks.
You know,
Yeah.
remember their coffee
Not all
order.
the
That's always
time.
they appreciate that one.
I could not tell you anybody that I've ever worked with's coffee order.
Oh, well, I always knew the coffee order, and sometimes I would bring in coffees for the team. So that was always fun. Get a lot of points that way.
Jan Levison Gould, I presume, played by the great Melora Hardin, who Rachel will always remember as Trudy Monk.
Yeah. I don't think I could ever look at her and not think that. I mean, now I see her as Jan, and
Yeah, I mean now she's
it's
Jan.
hard not to see her as Jan.
She is the
Is Monk on the list?
selects.
Okay.
Selects.
We'll
I
do
think.
we'll do like a whole season of like mysteries, and
There you go.
that could be fun. Get Psych on there.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be fun.
Because Psych would be the same way. I just can't remember. There's a lot of good Psych.
There's some
but
good Psychs.
Yeah, I don't know if we would do the whole thing.
We'd
or
have
not.
to talk about Dale the Whale and how that
yes.
horrible ending.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that terrible ending.
That's a select.
That's the only reason
I like
think
that
it
we have
selects.
this thing called Shelf Life Select now.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
We'll implement that. No, I like it because it sounds kind of fun. Where you select an episode, we talk about it. It's like a short, but at the same, then it's like a fun little.
Yeah. Just
But
a
it's
select.
still like
'Cause
is
this
this
The
on the
Office-
shelf?
The Office Season 1 Part 1, as opposed to if we were just doing Diversity Day, then it would just
Yeah.
be Shelf Life Selects
The
Diversity
Office.
Day.
Yeah.
It's still part of the volume. It's still the same as any other episode.
And we might do a shit ton of episodes, but
Yeah.
we're just going to select them every once in a while
Yeah.
to do. Which just sounds like kind of fun. I like this. All right, anyways.
We gotta get through our favorites. So Jan Levison Gould, played by Melora Hardin, she is the antagonist to Michael because she's Michael's boss. I never know if we get exactly.
She's also business, and Michael is jokes,
Yes.
jokes,
Yes,
and business.
she is the very straight-laced businesswoman to start before she loses her goddamn mind.
Because of Michael. And this company.
Yes, I think it's mostly because of Michael and this company that she does. She's like okay. So according to Dunderpedia, well, that's it for a second.
All right.
She is the vice president of sales at Dunder Mifflin.
Interesting.
I thought she was just like Michael's the regional manager. I thought she oversees all of the different
regions.
branches. So
Yeah.
she's like a VP or something.
Yeah.
So vice president of sales, like, okay, I guess. But I always thought of her of just being more like she's the next step to.
Well, I
like
guess that
like
is
a
kind of what you
CEO
would
role.
call it. No, I don't think she's the next step to the CEO, but I do think she is kind of like the regional manager. Like she manages all of the regional managers. And
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
what would be
that-
above that? I guess corporate stuff. Would be
yeah, I
above
think
that.
there's a couple more corporate things before
Yeah.
you'd get to CEO, but it kind of makes sense. I'll give it to it. I mean, honestly, you probably could put that same role as a very close step to the CEO.
Yeah,
So she could be very close to being CEO at the same time. There just might be a couple rungs technically above her.
yeah. It's we
That
learn.
depends on different offices.
Yeah, we learn a little bit more about how Dunder Mifflin is structured and how it is managed and stuff.
We're only taking this from what we probably know.
Sure. So Michael calls Jan Levison Gould Hillary Rodham Clinton, and he doesn't call her that because he's scared of her, because he's not, which he clearly is. He's terrified of her.
absolutely scared of her.
They have a meeting, kind of like a one-on-one meeting to like do like a
One-on-one,
catch-up.
but Pam's
But Pam is there.
She's the note taker.
Do you think that Michael brought Pam in because
Because he's scared of her.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I totally agree with this. It's
Okay.
well, we need Pam because she can be our
Yeah,
minute
yeah,
person.
yeah. That's how Michael plays it off, and
Yes.
Janet's just like, fine, whatever. Yeah, okay.
Because Pam is Pam and it's whatever.
Pam.
Pam.
So Pam is taking notes, and Jan and Michael are having this meeting where the facts that Michael threw away
Was the agenda.
was the agenda. And Michael tries to play it off and make it Pam's fault.
Yes.
Which Pam, of course, as you should, folks at home, if you're like starting out in your career, don't take any of this, do it in a respectable manner. But if your
Right.
boss tries to like do this kind of stuff to you, which
Yep.
I'm sure there are bosses out there that will
Oh, they do it all the
this,
time.
it's probably not a great work
tell the truth.
environment.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, but
But do it in a
respectable manner.
right.
But make sure, if their boss is there, that you're not the one taking the hit. A good supervisor, in my opinion, just my opinion.
And just admit what you did.
Yes, you should always take the blame and give your staff the reward, because your job is
You're managing your staff.
Yeah, they should be making you look good through their work, and vice versa. So there shouldn't be this like blaming kind of thing. But of course, Michael is that way because he's not.
He doesn't want to look bad because he's also afraid of Pam, or not Pam.
Well, he's afraid of
Jan.
Pam too. But...
yeah, honestly, he probably is afraid of most people, except for Dwight and Toby.
Yeah, he's not afraid of Toby, is he?
No, he hates Toby.
So she tells Michael, once she gives him her copy
agenda.
of the agenda, she should have just brought a second. Would it have been funnier if she handed him a second copy?
I think that's the way it would have gone in future episodes.
Yeah.
Where she would have just been like, and then just handed him another copy.
Is it too not played straight if she does that? Because like I could see that
where
being
she expects
funnier.
him to be
She still expects him to figure it out. And he's been the
maybe
region manager
she
for 4
shouldn't.
years.
I don't know, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because at the same time she knows him.
Right, exactly.
So she would bring an extra because of that.
Yeah, in future seasons you're right.
She would have brought an extra
one. Jan tells Michael one of the branches is going to close and there will be downsizing. And Michael, of course, goes, this is a moment that my roommate and I would always do where he goes, it's making me go ring-a-ding-a-dingy, because he's like freaking out about the term downsizing. And he says that downsizing is a bitch. And he wouldn't wish it on any of our men or women. In this little deleted scene in the Superfan edit, Todd Packer calls in.
Oh,
so this is
it's
our
so
first
awkward.
We got our first little moment of Todd Packer.
Why would you answer the phone while you're in this meeting?
Yeah, why would you answer the phone while you're in
Especially
this
if you know who it is.
Yeah, you know who Todd Packer is. And Todd... So
does he think he's going to lighten the mood?
I don't know. So we'll learn that Todd Packer works directly for corporate because he's like a traveling salesman, so Jan does not oversee him. But he calls her Godzillary, because they must call her Hillary Clinton between the two of them. And he says, does the carpet match the drapes?
What?
Before even knowing, like,
Yes!
what is on the other side. That's just how Todd Packer rolls.
I don't even think he would have cared.
Todd Packer?
I think he would have probably asked her straight to her face. That's how this man, you'll find out.
Yeah.
He's horrible.
Yeah.
He's so bad.
Oh,
and like I don't. And Michael Scott like looks up to the man.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
It's horrible.
He looks up to him. And Michael, I love Steve Carell's...
But he knows when it's bad, and Todd Packer does not.
Yeah. Well, I love Steve Carell's reaction of, that's horrifying, when he hangs up on him. So Jan wants everything to be kept a lid on. She doesn't want the word of downsizing getting out. And Michael, of course, says, of course that will happen. And the very next scene is you get a little bit of all of the others in the office talking about
discussing the downsizing. So,
Rachel, I will put it to you. Was it Pam or was it Michael?
Well,
Because like some way, shape, or form, somebody found out about it.
I feel like there was maybe even that agenda. Well, no, because they threw it away. I'm just trying to think of like how they might have found out. One, they might have heard something. Two, there might just be speculating, right?
Sure.
Because she's here. Why is she here? Well, this could be this reason.
Doing like checkups on the.
Yeah, there's always gossip about that kind of stuff, especially
Yeah.
like if you're at a different branch. But I kind of wonder if it was Pam by accident.
By accident.
Yeah.
Why do you think by accident?
Well, because if she said it too loud and she was only telling one person.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah. I mean, it's possible. Yeah, I have a feeling that it was Pam.
And it was just like
It'd be funnier if it was Michael.
Yeah.
But it makes more sense that it was Pam.
Right. But it just seems like also odd that she would gossip about it, but I feel like she also wants to warn them because she likes them.
Right, yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm a little on the fence about it, but I also feel like Michael would have done something stupid where like the door is open and he said the word downsizing while he's on the phone or just talking to himself.
That's also possible.
And then once they hear that, they know what it means.
Or he tells Dwight. No, because Dwight finds out from Jim.
Right.
So it wasn't Michael talking to Dwight about it.
Right.
So we get a little bit of all of them talking about downsizing, and we get an Angela talking head where she says she's not worried about downsizing because have you met Kevin? So because Kevin
Poor
is the
Kevin.
other
I do
accountant.
love Kevin.
Yeah, so little glimpses of what all of these characters would become. One thing that The Office is really good about, and it's that Ken Kwapis style and the way that they like do the documentary, is all the little, and the acting for sure, is all the little facial expressions
Yes.
that all of the actors do.
They're very
all the
expressive.
choices. Yeah, they're
And I
very
love
good.
that.
Even the Todd Packer call, like the look on Pam's face is like horrified. Like
Yeah, if you look
I
at
don't
each
know
one
what
of
to
them,
do. Yeah.
it's the annoyance on Jan's face,
Yeah.
the oh god on Pam's face, and the oh shit, why did I answer the phone on Michael Scott's face?
Kevin says that he
Well,
needs this job because he needs his nights free because he's in a band. And Oscar, he's like according to Angela, he's like a stapler. Do I need it? Yes, but I still need to push it. And Oscar wants to keep the job and likes the job because it's only 5 minutes away from his house.
Which, you know what? That's understandable. That's a perk. If it's that close
I
to
do.
you,
I do like it though. That like that's the reasoning for why he likes this job. Like
Why
it
not?
basically means that like the rest of it like
they each have their own reasons, you know?
Michael says that as a doctor you wouldn't tell a person that they had cancer because that would just upset them.
But you...
So he is going to lie to them.
But is he supposed to tell them?
Yeah, she said not to. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
like,
isn't supposed to tell it.
No.
Well, I'm guessing that because you're not seeing the documentarian side of it, of asking him the question. So maybe they said, like, we know Jan said no, but don't you think that you, like, have a responsibility to tell your people?
Sure, yeah.
But he says it's better to be a happy idiot, which is true. Folks at home, ignorance is bliss. The less you know.
Well,
It's true.
have you read 1984,
And you know
Kevin?
it's true, yes.
Ignorance is bliss.
It is. Those people seem pretty happy to me. I don't understand. What's wrong with it?
Yeah, we'll just go with that.
Something that I never got. So anyway, something that I never understood with until now is that Michael, even knowing that downsizing is coming, has hired a temp.
Yeah. Why did they let him hire a temp?
This is just wasting money.
Oh, yeah.
Michael immediately so we get the introduction of Ryan Howard, the temp, played by BJ Novak.
Yeah. Just a greasy temp.
My roommate never liked Ryan the temp.
I mean, he does kind of rub you the wrong way.
He goes through a metamorphosis over the next
he
9
becomes a
seasons,
scumbag.
too. Which is that's a good character arc for
yeah, sure.
It's just wild and insane.
You don't have to have a character become like wonderful. You can have a character become horrible.
Sure.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
And he does. He becomes a scumbag.
The thing about him that I've always wondered, two things. And this is me like thinking aloud almost. We always wondered, why does he get a credit in the opening credits? Why does he get a credit? Because he's a background character sometimes. He doesn't even say stuff a lot of the time. And it's because I learned this.
Ooh, okay.
I did my research here because I'm a professional podcaster.
That's right, professionals.
Professionals. The truth, professionals only. 3 hours long, at least.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yes. The reason that he's in the opening credits is because he signed a acting contract. He signed a writing contract because he wrote the next episode.
Oh.
And he signed an acting contract. So it was in his contract. And per rules of like SAG and stuff, if you had this certain contract for television shows, you had to be in the opening credits for the television shows.
Well, that makes
the rest
sense.
of the cast was like temporary acting, or they were writers, or they were like something else first, so they weren't in the opening credits. That's why they're all like also starring at the end of the credits for the first season. That's why at some point they all must have had to re-sign the contracts, and then they all end up in it. But I always was always like, is it just because he's a writer? Like, did he help create the show? Like, what the hell? He's
just becoming a background character in his own show or something.
The other thought I have on this is, especially in these first pretty much for the whole first season, he's more of the straight man than Jim even. He, like, doesn't even want to be there.
Right.
So I wonder if at one point the thought was he was going to be the outsider's perspective.
Ooh, okay. I could have seen that. Which they kind of even say in an episode.
Yeah.
The next episode.
Oh, well, they, like, kind of...
They just say the words, like, oh, an outsider's
that's
perspective.
True. They do say that,
yeah.
So I do wonder if it was supposed to be, like, he was going to be the outsider's perspective, but that became Jim. Jim became the straight man and the audience surrogate. So BJ Novak's Ryan Howard was just... That's why he has the character arc that he ends up having, because it's like, well, now we have to do something else with this character. So anyway, Ryan Howard becomes the temp for The Office, and immediately Michael does a Three Stooges impression, because Mo Howard, so he's going, knock, 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 and stuff like that. And then he goes, here, I'll do another one, and he does this.
I'm sort of a student of comedy.
Watch this.
Here we go. I'm Hitler. Adolf Hitler.
It's so random.
It's not only random, it's like it's like, what is the worst thing you could do?
Oh yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, it's taking this and doing like the goose stepping and stuff.
It's so weird. It's like, this is what you're showing the temp. Good job.
Pam is like, whatever, let me go. She doesn't care if she gets downsized because she likes to do watercolors. This is where she mentions that Jim thinks they're good.
Yes.
So we get the
I thought
first
that was
hint.
like just like a little bit of a hint about their relationship in the office.
Yeah. Dwight pushes stuff off of his edge of the desk because him and Jim share a desk. Or like shared desks. Like they're hooked up together. And Dwight thinks that there's too much stuff on his side of the desk. So he starts like pushing it off. And because of this, in retaliation, Jim starts making a pencil fence.
Yes.
Like a fortress or made of pencils and stuff.
Right. It's kind of like, I can't think of what they're called. It's like it's the wall, but they have the pointy bits at the top.
Yeah, they have points at the top.
Yes.
Like a
so like
logs.
if something goes above,
exactly.
they like hit the
batterments.
I don't remember what
Folks at home must know what word that is. We're not gonna look it up.
You know, I build stuff like this on video games. I just cannot think of the names.
But that, of course, annoys Dwight.
Of course.
So
and he
starts...
calls it a hazard.
Yeah, because he could fall on it and
get hurt.
So he starts like slamming down the pencils.
With his phone or something? I don't even know. It's so dumb.
Dwight then says that downsizing doesn't bother him. And in fact, during his interview, he recommended it. And this is where we get something from Jim. And I think only Jim ever does this. Maybe in the whole show? I don't know. We'll have to keep our eye out. He looks directly into the camera.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the differences I've noted, and that I think one of the producers pointed out, or somebody doing analysis on The Office pointed out, it's not my own thought, is that Jim's the only... even in the talking heads, all the rest of them will look slightly past the camera because they're looking at the documentary crew. Jim, sometimes, and like in this scene... will look directly at the camera.
He's more so looking at the audience, telling you that in the camera.
He's talking to you.
Right. He's not just talking to the documentary crew. He's talking to you.
Yeah, so we're supposed to view him as the protagonist.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's almost like he's breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
But he's not.
Yeah.
Because it's just a documentary.
That's true. Next shot is the establishing shot of the office, which is incorrect. It is not the right office building for Dunder Mifflin, but it is for the pilot, at least. So they do change the establishing shot. Michael does the $6 Million Man impression, trying to get a laugh out of Pam. I feel like this is like another one of those moments that's played up as like an early Michael moment of him doing the shut it, like trying to play that up.
And he goes on forever.
He does it forever.
And Pam's just like, what do you want me to do? They say to like laugh
They say in the
hysterically?
commentary that she kept laughing at him, so they had to like have Steve Carell like go away so that they could get a shot of her being like
being serious.
Yeah.
Because it was actually funny.
Well, because it's just so absurd.
It's so absurd, and it's one of those things that just makes you laugh because it's so dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that The Office no-sells everything that Michael does. They don't even let him get away with, like, getting a pity laugh. Like, he
Right.
gets nothing.
Like, honestly, in a real office situation, you just kind of go, ha, 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 and then you let it...
Because you want to move on with your damn
life.
life.
You just want it to go away.
Yeah, they do not let him get it.
Sometimes you can't, because it's, like, one of those inappropriate jokes where you're just like, I'm not laughing at that.
I will say this right now, and it's tolerated by me, because everybody says it. Everybody I know says Happy Friday. I hate it when people say Happy Friday. It's like somebody got a case of the Mondays in Office Space.
Oh, somebody's got the case of the Mondays.
I feel like I have to save my rant about Happy Friday for when we do the.
We
Office
always
Space.
had Hump Day Wednesdays because of the Camel commercials.
Oh yeah, I
had a
rant
coworker who
about
would
that.
always yell that through the office, which it's the way he would do it was actually kind of funny. So it's like, yeah, I'll chuckle, and then yeah, Fridays are always like, oh god, it's finally Friday.
But I just never like when people say Happy Friday. I don't know, something about it. It's too like, I don't know. It's
Too on the nose for
yeah,
like in an
it's
office space.
That's why. It's because of Office Space. I guarantee you, it's because of my visceral reaction to it.
Maybe because we did this, we'll have to do Office Space now.
We'll have to do Office Space.
It's an interesting one. If you
Pretty-
haven't seen that, that's an interesting one.
Showstopper.
It's another one where it's just like, think about being in an office, and I wasn't in an office when I first saw it, so
pretty accurate.
yeah,
In a different way than this.
yeah.
Michael says, I deserve a raise. And Pam says,
Don't we all?
Just to play along with Michael.
She's tried to play along with them.
Yeah, says, don't we all? And Michael is like, if you're unhappy with your comp, you can take it up with HR. Like, he
It was
immediately
so
goes-
serious and
Yeah.
like awkward.
Michael also says that all the things that he could tell them about how to run this place, but they never ask him anything corporate. Which, yeah, he's again on lack of self-awareness. Jim has now built a box fort to block Dwight's face in the super.
And he's talking to us.
And he's talking to us about it. We learned that Jim has paid off his student loans. Mm-hmm. He wanted to, do we ever find out what Jim's major was in college?
I don't know. Maybe later, but I don't think I don't think he talks about it in this.
He doesn't talk about it in this. I'm sure there's an episode over 9 seasons where they talk about it, but now I'm curious. But we learned that Jim paid off his student loans. He wanted to buy a new car, by the time he turned 25, which he did. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't accomplished anything since. His car is now 5 years old, so he's trying to figure out what to next do with his life. That's Jim's character, right?
Yeah. That's kind of a nutshell.
So he tries to screw around with Dwight. He tells him that if I can't see you, I can't hear you. And he makes Dwight call him
To
on
ask
his
any
phone
questions.
to talk to him, to ask any questions. Dwight gets frustrated by this, but he still does it because he's Dwight and he's a dork. And Jim slips away so that Dwight can't get an answer. I like that there's an acknowledgement of the camera here because Dwight says, I'm not talking to myself because they're filming. So he's like, it's not completely on me because I'm filming, or they're filming.
I'm filming.
That's all in the Superfan edit, though. None of that happens in the.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pam, this also in the Superfan edit. Pam is reading and eating lunch when Michael comes up to interrupt her.
Oh my god. You know how annoying that is?
Yes. Do not interrupt people when they're eating lunch. If they're eating lunch by themselves, you can
They
kind
just
of
wanna
wave
be
to them
by
and say, do you want me to
themselves.
stop by? But if they're, reading or something, just let them be. Just let them be.
Yeah, send him a note, send him an email if you really wanted to talk to him later.
But he's starved for attention.
I would go find the corner of the cafeteria to sit in.
Michael checked his balls and thought there was a lump.
Why?
Because he wants people to talk to him. He's so starved for it.
It's so weird, though, that you would bring this up.
But it wasn't.
You're also, at ball level with Pam right now. Okay?
Yeah, and
Which
she
just
kind of
makes it
looks
worse.
over at his crotch, does a side eye too.
Yes. Well, how can you not? The man is talking about it.
Oh, Michael talks about his heroes. Rachel, do you remember who his heroes are? This could be a good trivia question if anybody ever ends up doing office trivia, at a bar that does office trivia. Do you remember his heroes? Okay.
I don't think I do.
They are Bob Hope, Abraham Lincoln, Bono, and probably God. would be the fourth one.
Oh my god.
And he
I mean,
thinks-
Abraham Lincoln comes back.
He thinks
but-
all those people just help the world in so many ways, and this is a great Michael moment.
It's really beyond words. It's really incalculable.
Incalculable.
Because he's trying to say incalculable.
Incalculable.
Thank you. I'm a professional podcaster.
Well, because you have it stuck in your head about how
yeah.
he said it.
We get our first assistant to the regional manager bit because Michael brings the staff into the conference room.
Right.
And he can't even do that without being annoying. He's like, conference room, ASAP. Like, he can't just say, come into the conference room.
Right.
But when he's in there, that's when we get our first assistant to the regional manager bit. We learn that Michael, to appease Dwight, said that he was the assistant to the regional manager.
Right.
And Dwight thinks that means that he's the assistant regional manager, which he's not.
No.
Ryan is outside the room, and he's telling somebody over the phone about the downsizing.
Yeah, like he's like, there's
Who is he
gossip about
talking to?
downsizing.
Do you
I
think
think
he's
he's
talking
just
to, like-
talking to a personal friend.
Okay.
Because it sounds like he's like, yeah, I'm working here, you know.
My headcanon is that he is talking to the temp agency, telling them that he's going to need another job because they're
Oh,
talking
maybe
about
because they're closing the
downsizing.
branch
Yeah.
down and everything.
Michael tells the office staff that corporate is thinking about downsizing.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, but he can promise that it won't be out of his hands. And Stanley, we get our first little bit of Stanley, who looks so young.
Yeah.
Like, shockingly young.
Yeah.
Is like, he's telling Michael, like, but can we really know that, Michael?
Right.
Stanley will play the role of, like, the middle-age to retirement age by the end of this.
Yeah.
Like the old hat at the office. That's like
Who is
headed-
going to question him?
Yes, he questions Michael.
Which is good.
He actually
needs
stands up
do
to
that.
Michael.
Yes.
And it just does not take any of Michael's shit. Because I think he's been there as long as Michael, and he just kind
must
of like
have.
puts up with him. Because he just wants to get through it and retire. Like,
Yes.
that is Stanley's character.
I have to stay here because I'm getting is pension plan. Is that the thing?
I think he ends up getting a pension at the end. I think that's what
So
he
I think
learned.
that's why he's staying
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It's all about my bonus.
See?
Stanley tells Michael that it isn't about trust. We just need to know, is it potentially us? Michael tries to get out of this. In pure Michael fashion, he doesn't pick anybody else. He picks Pam.
Yeah, what the hell?
Does he think Pam's going to be on his side?
I guess.
But he tells Pam, like, oh, Pam, I thought you were going to say something.
You're gonna ask a question, right? Please ask me a question. Like, and she's just like, what the?
And Pam is like, well, I was in the meeting with Jan,
Right.
and she said that it could be us.
Yeah, it could be anybody.
So, like, the whole office is, like, worried then. And Michael tries to appease to Stanley by saying, ain't nobody gonna be messing with my children. Which,
And Stanley just gives him this look. And I
because for
love
those
it.
of you that have never seen The Office and are listening to us,
Oh yeah.
they're out there. Stanley is black. So, like...
Oh yeah, yeah. I
there's
guess
a
we
lot
should
of-
explain.
There are a lot of, like, Michael
Tries to do
being-
some race stuff sometimes,
Yeah,
and it's very. But they
Stanley is very patient
but they
with him.
poke back. Yeah, the thing is that like they call him out on it,
Yeah.
even when it's just a look.
Yeah.
They call him out on
Yeah.
it. So
Steve Carell put it in a way where he said that, like, he doesn't think that Michael Scott is racist. He's just
Stupid.
And if he could learn, he wouldn't say those things.
Right.
But he's just too stupid.
he's too stupid,
Um,
and he just thinks
which
that's
I
the
think
way it is.
There's a whole sect of people that I think are like that. They're just ignorant or stupid.
Yeah, and
or
they're not.
old.
They're
just
not
don't.
willing to learn.
Yeah, or they're just completely lack what they just said.
Oh my god. It's just like, wow, you're just very unaware.
Yeah.
He's very unaware.
So Stanley tries to tell him it's not a matter of trust, but he trusts Michael, which I thought was an interesting thing for Stanley to say. I think that is actually the way that Stanley would. Now, you are supposed to think Michael can't pull this off, but technically he kind of does, except he kind of doesn't later on in the series.
I mean, I think people in the office do get laid off, but they're just like,
Yeah, they do. There's people in this office in this scene that
Yes,
are
that
like, who are
don't
these
exist.
people? They are just they are there, and they clearly got downsized by the
Yeah.
end. By the end of the season, they are gone.
yeah.
Which I think is interesting. Jim says, what would he do with all this useful information? All of this stuff about, like, different prices of paper. And then he I was going to say Freudian slips, but he kind of just lets a piece of information go because he's like, what Pam's favorite yogurt is.
Right.
I can't remember what it is. That's a good trivia question, too.
Mixed berry.
Mixed berry, that's right.
Yeah.
And then there we get, immediately it cuts to a talking head of Pam.
Well, first it shows Pam eating
the mixed berry. While he's looking over, pining for her.
Right.
This is the first time I think we very clearly can tell Jim has a thing for Pam.
Right.
And Pam thinks it's cute that he remembered, for sure.
Right, which I think, because they're friends.
Yeah.
As far as we know, they're friends, but there is that little bit of a
flirtation.
Spark. Yeah, there's a little flirtation, which can get out of hand at some points.
Yes, which we'll point out as well. We go back to Michael, who's introducing Ryan to Dwight. And this is where we get this is straight from the pilot of the UK series. They bring it back for this, which is Jim has put Dwight's stapler in Jell-O.
Jell-O!
I don't know how he did this. I don't know how he pulled this off, but he did do this. And
I guess you'd put it in while it's setting, so you wouldn't want to put it in before it, like when it's just completely liquid, but while it's setting, maybe like a little bit time later, then you put the object in while it's kind of thick, and then it solidifies.
Is this like a Mythbusters thing?
Should we try it?
Could try this?
I think
Folks
we
at
should.
home, please let us know if you have tried this, or if you can try this.
I
If
think
you have
about
a
it.
good friend at your office that would not get upset like
God.
Dwight, and you can pull this off,
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I want to know if somebody's actually done this.
I mean, I could see doing it for like Halloween, where you put like eyeballs in the Jell-O.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of like fun
you're right.
things.
People have put stuff in the Jell-O,
Right?
So it does.
Or
work.
like even for like different holidays, and you just put weird things in
Yeah.
the Jell-O to make it look fun
yeah,
and festive.
a little fun, a little different, it's a little fun,
Or, to prank the office mates and put like their stuff in it.
or to piss off your office friend. So Dwight says that this place is a little too relaxed, and people take advantage of it. Dwight goes to take the stapler out.
Right.
And Michael goes, don't take it out. There are starving people, and you can't let
have
it go
to
to
eat
waste.
it.
And he starts laughing. Steve Carell is so good at doing the laughing
Yes.
for Michael Scott. Like, to just laugh on cue like that, it sounds so real coming out of Steve Carell. It's scary. It's almost kind of scary that he can do that.
I think he might also just be laughing.
That's true, too.
He
that's
probably
true.
gets himself to laugh. I laugh all the time. You don't know if
You do laugh all the
you don't know
time.
if I'm real.
We have hours of you laughing all the time.
I'm sorry I laugh so much. I'm so sorry.
We're trying to be loose here. You don't want... Folks at home, you don't want 4.5 hours
Would you like
of us...
me to just talk like this
Yeah,
and
you
tell you
don't
all about
want
the
that.
office? No.
That's not fun. Where's the fun in that?
Let's have a conversation.
We work hard and we play hard here at Shelf Life.
Work hard, play hard.
He wants Jim to be disciplined. Dwight does.
Oh, Jim's also eating.
Jim is also eating Jell-O.
And he's
A
like,
different
how do you know it's
colored
me?
Jell-O, but he is also eating Jell-O. Michael says it's time to stop putting personal effects in Jell-O. They have different...
They're doing puns here.
Oh, yeah, they're doing
doing
puns.
dessert puns.
Jim does a dessert pun. Ryan does a dessert pun.
And then
then Michael stands there and
tries to come up
tries so
with
hard
one.
and cannot think of a pun.
Which feels about right.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it makes perfect sense. I noted that they have different monitors than they'll end up having outside of the pilot. Like, these aren't the workstations that they all have.
Oh, really?
I thought that was interesting.
You noticed the monitors.
Yes.
Like they're now, mind you, people probably are used to the nice thin monitors.
They're
that you
thin
have.
in this, but they aren't thin.
No, they
past...
probably go back to the thick monitors that you expect at like an older area.
Yeah. I don't know. It was almost like you went from the future to the past.
Which is
in this couple
weird.
episodes. Jim says his dream job, this is part of the Superfan cut, would be that he would be a part-time astronaut because he could impress women that way. This is where you get it's not the first. I think it happens earlier in the episode, but you get that classic shot of Jim really leaning into the receptionist desk. Like he's got their like hands are touching.
Yeah, they
and he's
could
like,
touch
and
at
he's
that
like
point, yeah.
leaning over, and Jim is talking about going to get drinks with the rest of the office at the end of the week. And as they're having this conversation, Roy walks in. So we meet Roy, who is Pam's fiance. And Jim immediately like stands up straight. Pam tells a story about how they got engaged. We find out. Go ahead. I can tell Rachel has thoughts. It's going to be it could possibly be a Rachel rant.
their relationship is so weird. It's so odd, and I'm trying to figure out how they got in a relationship in the first place. Well, okay, let me tell the story. So
We know their first date was that he brought his brother with to a hockey rink.
Oh yeah, we do find that out, don't
Yeah.
we? But the proposal was in an ad in the paper that she said must have been, pay by the word, because it said it was a little Valentine's ad. So he actually he proposed on Valentine's Day in the ad.
Mhm.
And
But he was cheap about it.
He was very cheap about it because
Which
it
goes
said,
along with Roy's character. for
yes,
sure.
it said Roy love Pam marriage? Question mark.
It would be funny.
Which
it
is
would
kind
be
of
cute
it would
if
be
it was
cute.
like an
If there was like a
inside thing
joke.
between the two of
But
them.
it doesn't seem like it
No,
is.
no.
And yeah, so it could be like a really cute thing
Mm-hmm.
if it was something like that they joked about and she had like another story for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems kind of like she's like, yeah, so it was a little odd, but
Yeah.
it was
It
romantic
was
because it was,
romantic and
and
thrifty.
thrifty. And then is this the same spot where she goes on about why she loves him?
I think it's later, but you might as well just say it now.
Because she goes on to talk about why she loves him, and she loves him because her family loves him.
That's what she figured out, that she loves him because her family loves him.
Which I think she realized why.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
kind of sad.
you wonder if she feels more stuck than anything.
Yeah, like, was he a family friend and they made her go on a date with him?
Well, she says her dad says he's a
good
great
guy, he's a
protector
provider.
and a good provider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, did he know her dad first?
I don't know.
And then he got the tickets and he said, go out with my daughter,
I
type
don't
of
know.
thing?
We might find out in the future.
So
I
it's
don't
just,
know.
I don't know, it might be in the future.
Could
I don't
be.
remember.
Could just be your-
I don't remember it all.
Could just be you trying to put pieces together.
And
that
I
you
am
never
trying to
would.
put some pieces together. But I just kind of feel bad because their relationship just seems kind of static.
Yes.
Is that the word I want?
I mean, it is, yeah.
Flat?
It's
very flat.
We see glimpses of
And they've been
their
engaged, by the
chemistry.
way, for
3 years.
3 years.
We see glimpses of their chemistry later on. Even in this season, we do.
Yeah.
But I agree.
But it's kind of like
They're-
the cheerleader and the football player.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Except they're
But
both...
she's like the nerdy girl.
Yes,
and the
she's the
football
artsy
player?
fartsy and he's the football player, yeah.
I guess it's more of that then.
Yeah.
It's the nerdy girl and the football player.
Yeah. Jimmy dates the cheerleader. We'll get to.
That's true. That's actually true. Also, the nerdy boy gets the cheerleader and the nerdy girl gets
Yeah,
the
they
football
should've
player.
swapped.
And that's what happens. Well, they don't swap, but
No.
never mind. But yeah, so
Wife Swap,
it's
another show from the aughts that was a reality show that was garbage.
horrible, awful.
Jim says
People
that...
are obsessed with that now. Did you know that? They put it on like one of the streaming sites. And now people are
Yeah,
obsessed with
not
watching it.
surprised. It's been 20 years, so you gotta recycle. Jim says that Roy is a good-sized guy. Because he cannot say he's a good guy. But he must be great because he's so big. That's what Jim says.
Well, he tries to have a conversation with the guy, and the guy like
Yeah. Jim tries to convince Roy to come out for drinks, and he doesn't want to have it. Roy is a lot more antagonistic in this
Yes.
pilot than he is even in the future.
he kind of is a jackass.
Yeah, because there's this awkward silence. He's carrying this bag.
Yeah, what
It
is
looks
this
like
bag?
like, what is in this bag?
And Jim even tries to ask, and then he just leaves.
And he just leaves and says, I'll talk to her later.
What's in the bag?
Yeah, I really want to know what was in this bag.
I kind of want to look
Folks
at the
at
shape
home,
of it.
What is in this bag? Has he got a body in this bag? What's in
That's
this
too
bag?
small for a body.
Yeah, I want to know what's in this bag.
It's a weird bag.
The documentarian crew asks Jim if he thinks he'll be invited to the wedding. He waits a minute. There's an awkward silenced beat, and then there is no answer. And then this is when Pam talks about why she loves Roy. Michael says that he thinks of himself as a friend first, a boss second, and an entertainer third. Which is probably not good advice to be taking for any bosses out there.
Right.
He's talking with Ryan in his office, and he's like sitting in the chairs with Ryan. It's kind of weird. And he's talking with Ryan, and he says to go along.
Well, because he's more
I think it's 'cause of
casual
the
when he
camera
sits in
crew
there.
too. I think it's supposed to be like, where would the camera crew go if this conversation was happening. So they're like, well, they'd have to sit in the
Well,
corner.
I think it is kind of like a boss. He doesn't want to seem like the boss.
Yeah, he
He's
doesn't wanna
like,
sit
I'm
in
on the
his-
same side as you, so I'm going to sit on the
That
same
is very
side
Michael.
as
That
you.
is very Michael.
Yeah. Oh, this part though.
Okay, yes. So
is
this is
awful.
Yeah. So apparently this is also from the pilot, and Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant thought that this might have been too dark for the UK version. So they
bad.
they told Greg Daniels like, we don't know if you should do this because it could be too it could alienate the audience too much against Michael, which it kind of does, but. Michael
Oh,
Scott
I just wanted to slap him.
But Michael Scott is such a classic. He is an iconic television character. He's a classic. He's up there with your Kramers and your Fonzies. So
But he's just
You
so
just can't think
stupid. He
about the-
thinks this is a good prank idea.
So he asks Ryan if he has ever watched the Jamie Kennedy Experiment or Punk'd, two prank-based reality shows of the day. Like now we just have Impractical Jokers where they do pranks on each other.
I don't know if there's any more.
There's nothing where like
but that's
people
like
would
fine.
prank on.
You can prank,
each
other,
other,
but don't like
don't prank real people.
Don't.
And a lot of this has gone to fucking YouTube and TikTok and shit, where these fucking little kids will be pranking people on the streets.
And I
thinking
don't.
It's funny.
I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
I find that incredibly rude and disrespectful. I will say it that way. You're gonna say these little fucking little twats, and I'm gonna say that. No, Impractical Jokers is fine because they make fun of each other.
No, Impractical
And,
Jokers is fine. I'm
and
talking
they,
about like
they prank
practical-
people, but in a
Yeah.
way that it's not hurting them
Even
or
the-
embarrassing
even the TikTok
them.
practical jokers that do it to themselves, or like the rest of like the TikTokers or like friends
Mm-hmm.
or stuff, like that's perfectly fine. Doing it to like random people though is
Yes,
it's a little questionable.
It feels awkward.
But that's kind of what Punk'd
was a well.
Ashton
Punk'd
Kutcher doing it
was
with his
somebody
friends.
new,
Yeah.
and then the friends were getting punked,
Yeah.
and usually it kind of would go to the extreme.
So Michael
Oh my god, I hate it.
decides to ask Pam to come in. So he asks Pam
Yeah,
to come
Pam
in.
had said something to him, so he's like, "Oh, come in here."
Oh yeah. It could have been anybody.
It could have been anybody.
It's worse because it's Pam. So he tells her first that she's made his life so much easier. She does a good job of like smiling at that, like thank you. And then he says that he's going to make it even easier to do the downsizing and the layoffs because she's being fired for theft. And she immediately is like, "Wait, is this real?" And he's like, "Well, you've been stealing Post-it notes." And she's like, "Is this serious?" And she's like, "I've never stolen anything. I've never taken as much as a pen."
Right.
And he's like, and the best part is you can't even get severance because it's
Because you stole
because
stuff.
you stole stuff. I can't remember.
So I don't even have to
can't
give you
remember the phrase.
severance or something like that.
Yeah. And he starts kind of chuckling. He's trying to like prevent himself from laughing. And she starts crying.
She starts crying.
because you're losing your job.
Right.
And you're
So,
losing
I mean,
your job
you're
for
gonna
something
get
that you didn't
emotional.
even do.
Yes.
And he realizes he messed up. And he waits a beat. And then he's like, "You've been expunked," like an idiot.
Oh my god. Thinking that it would have just
He
flipped on a
truly-
dime. She would have like, huh?
Do you think he truly thinks that Pam was just going to like forgive him for this? I think he does.
I think he does, but I think he also feels bad
Oh yeah.
because he had to follow through,
Yes.
and then he regrets it.
Yes. I think he thinks him and Pam will laugh about it when it's
Later.
over. Even though she's crying now. And he's just so oblivious to the fact that, like, that's such a cruel thing to do.
That
to your
is
employee.
horribly cruel.
It's so ridiculous. And he tells Pam that Ryan was his accomplice, and it does a great cut to Ryan, who is just shaking his head in disbelief that someone would do this to their employee. Pam says back to Michael, "You're a jerk." And
You know
just
what?
storms out.
He deserved it.
Yeah, she absolutely deserved it. And then I love the little awkward silence between Ryan and Michael's like trying to like share some sort of memo with Ryan, and he's just like, there's this like awkward
Yeah, now
moment.
it's awkward because it's like you just did that to one of your employees. I'm wondering if you know how he becomes like a villain. I feel like
Yes, we could spoiler alert, Ryan kind of becomes
Ryan
a
kind
villain.
of becomes a villain, but I think he might get pushed because of Michael Scott to become a villain in a way.
I think that we're putting a lot of the character development on the basis of Michael, which I
But I think there's more to it.
I also think it's true. I also think it's true. If Jim is the protagonist for this series, Michael is the catalyst. He's the MacGuffin that kind of he's the wizard that puts everybody on their path.
Yes.
For good or for bad, I think you might be onto something.
Like that.
Because even Jim and Pam's growth in different ways is because of how Michael
They interact
is.
because of him.
And ditto what you said with Jan. She loses her goddamn mind because of
she has to deal
Michael,
with him and the company.
and Ryan becomes evil.
Evil.
It-
for lack of another term.
Yeah, but I think that is purposeful because it's all about having to deal with Michael.
Yes.
Like, it's all about how these different characters deal with Michael. It's about how having this kind of presence in your life changes you. Now that, folks at home,
Wow.
is a shelf life in-depth conversation. Get that shit from the office ladies. Now, the reality is I doubt that they were thinking about any of that.
No, but
stuff at all.
I do like the idea of it.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
That's great.
So I'm going to keep it headcanon right there.
So that's within your headcanon, everyone.
That's my headcanon.
Michael does a classic. I love this moment. We used to quote this a lot in the dorm. The most important thing for the company is the people. The people. He says a couple of hard P's with the people.
Yeah, but it's forced hard P.
And then this story about his proudest
sorry.
moment. I can't even do it. Mr. Scores. Him talking about this Guatemalan guy that asked him to be the godfather of the child. And then at the end when he goes, didn't work out in the end. We had to let him go. He sucked.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Pam, to your point, wants to tell Jim what just happened.
Yes. Yes.
But they keep glancing at the camera, so they can't be forthright.
Because she doesn't want to
they're
talk
too...
about it inside of the office. She's asking if he's leaving because she
You're
wants
right.
to walk with him out where they're not in front of a camera,
Yeah.
and she can tell him what the hell just happened in that office.
Right, because as far as we know right now, the cameras are only in the office.
Right.
They'll later follow them around their entire life.
Oh yeah.
But yes.
But she's trying to get away from them because she's upset and wants to tell a friend what the hell just happened.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like they're going to do that, but then Pam has to rush out because Roy is angrily honking the horn.
God.
And then the episode ends with the jingle starts up again, the doo-dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo, and Jim leaves the best boss cup in Jell-O
Yes.
on Michael's
Which
desk.
is kind of cute.
Yeah.
Because
I
I think
think
Michael
Michael
would
would
enjoy
appreciate
that.
it.
Yes, because then it feels
Jim
like
is doing it-
I am the best boss.
Yeah, Jim is doing it without knowing what he did to Pam, too.
Yeah, I don't think he would have given it to him if he knew.
Yeah, I think he would have tried to do a crueler prank.
I think he would have done a crueler prank if to put him in his place more so than just kind of like being goofy and playing along with his jokes. Because he definitely would come to Pam's aid, especially in the later episodes. You'll see that he comes to Pam's aid whenever somebody's kind of like razzing her.
Yes, for sure. And that's how the episode ends. The epilogue and the superfan edit is them all trying to get used to the camera being there and looking at the boom mic and stuff like that. And we get a little shot of like all the rest of the office members. And we're off to the races with The Office. That is the end of the pilot. That is the end of episode number 1 of The Office.
I feel like it does show a lot of what The Office is going to be, but like very basic.
Grounded.
Yeah, grounded.
Yeah, we only have 200 more episodes to go. We might cut
You're
it off. We
kidding
might
me.
cut it off at some point.
It'll become a select.
Yeah,
It's gonna
at some
have
point it
to.
will. But these early seasons, we can.
Yeah, we can
keep-
do.
we
We
can
can.
keep
We sometimes
our-
you
our
have to do
usual
that
format,
with them.
So, Rachel, what did you think of the pilot?
So I really do think that it grounds.
Oh, you just fuck you, and fuck you too.
Sorry, I kind of did it without letting you ask me the question.
All right. Anyway, I agree.
Well, what did you think?
It's very dry.
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of
I-
but the dry wit.
I appreciate, again, the problem that we have with everything that we do. I appreciate it more going through it with you step by step.
That's right, because you know what? When we talk about everything, you can appreciate anything.
But it has a good flow to it. It's got it sets up all the characters very well, which is what a pilot is supposed to do. Like Some Enchanted Evening, which wasn't even supposed to be the pilot, or the Seinfeld pilot,
Yes.
which completely changed after
Which
the first
completely
episode.
changed.
But this, as a pilot, truly I think does
I think
do a
it
good
kind of
job
shows it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doing it. That was the pilot from season 1 of The Office. When we come back, we will continue our journey into Scranton Dunder Mifflin Paper Company with Diversity Day.
Abraham Lincoln once said that if you're a racist, I will attack you with the North. And those are the principles that I carry with me in the workplace.
And we're back in this orifice with another episode from season 1 of The Office. This one being the second episode of season 1 of The Office, Diversity Day, which first aired on March 29th, 2005, written by BJ Novak. So Ryan the Temp wrote this one, and it was also directed by Ken Kwapis, like the pilot episode. So, Rachel, didn't do it for the pilot. I'm doing it here.
No, because the pilot kind of
It's just
spoke
kind of
to itself.
stuff happens.
Yeah.
You just get an introduction of everything. But when it comes to Diversity Day, what happens in Diversity Day?
Well, there's a diversity day at the office where they talk about diversity. And it is in the guise of it being for everyone.
Say that again?
It's in the guise? Is that not
Yeah, I think that's right.
Is that weird? It's in the guise that it's for everyone.
Diversity.
The diversity day,
Oh,
whole
yes.
thing. Like,
Okay.
they have this event.
I
They
gotcha.
have this event called Diversity at the office.
Yes.
And it's in the guise that it's for literally everyone, but it's actually for one person
Yes.
in particular.
Yes. Okay, yes. I understand what you're saying.
Yes. That's pretty much it. So they actually have somebody come in and discuss diversity and how to include everybody and not be racist. And that's pretty much what happens.
Well, and diversity can be more than just... So,
Well, racist, gendered, ageist,
Yeah.
all of those things.
obviously so for those that have, for folks at home that have not worked in an office or maybe don't have a lot of experience in an office, I think diversity training is a fairly common thing. Even if it's not something like this, where like somebody comes in, I feel like it's like virtual
take, like, a test,
seminar or a
yeah.
test or something.
You have to watch a video.
or a pledge like they do.
Yes, you have to
like
watch a video
something
and
like
then
that.
sign a pledge.
Yeah, and because I always think of diversity as not even necessarily just diversity in the protected groups, which of course that's why companies would do
Of course.
diversity training, because they're trying to make sure that they're
Covering their asses?
yeah, in a sense, but they also it's also good because it's a good thing.
Of
to
course that's a
have
good thing.
in both the socio and protected class thoughts of diversity, but also just diversity in thought and diversity in background, and diversity in all
Oh, yeah.
sorts of stuff.
It's great to have different perspective and diversity.
Yeah,
It's great.
It is. It's a catalyst for being able to drive good things happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get like a company like doing something like that. To your point, though, there's a specific reason why the Scranton office needs to take diversity training, which we'll get into.
Right.
A couple notes about that I learned from the commentary about this episode. The computers for the rest of season 1 are real computers. They were supposed to stay there the whole day, like if you were in the background even of the shots, you were supposed to stay the whole day so that it looked filled if stuff went long.
Makes sense.
So that's why you will catch the cameras catching them playing solitaire a lot.
I love that.
Because
But it
they
also
have to do
feels like something. Yeah.
We hear in the commentary, Rainn Wilson requests that Michael Schur, which is one of the show writers, should be a character on the show. And he gets his wish at some point during the series. So, there are a lot of different little references and things like that I'll try to remember to point out as we go through. But this is a jam-packed episode when it comes to The Office, when it comes to like references and stuff. This one was replayed a lot in the dorm room and in my apartment.
I could
in college.
imagine.
Just because of a lot of like the quick beats that it has. Mm-hmm. This episode begins with Michael saying it is Diversity Day, and there's someone setting up something in the conference room for it. Dwight is shredding paper at his desk while Jim is on the phone.
So obnoxious.
Very rudely.
Very rude.
And it's not, because this is a very open office.
Yes.
Not my favorite kind of office, by the way.
No, I like a slightly covered, like not a full on like.
You don't like the big.
I don't like the big ones. That's claustrophobic. But like at least
I like my
some
privacy.
like semi
something. Yeah, they've actually shown that it's less productive, and workers really hate the open office.
I hate it. I would hate it.
I think it's a generational gap thing. I think it'll always be like an influx generational gap thing, because like the people that are in charge of companies now is that generation that lives to work.
Oh yeah,
so
that's
like
true.
they just think everybody should love
working
like,
and being in that environment.
So like when
remote work, best thing ever.
Absolutely.
Ugh.
But if Gen X or the millennials or whoever like eventually takes over, it'll be completely different, because it's gonna be like, no, fuck this.
No.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how productivity and like people feel comfortable and actually productive
And then
work.
I actually think that when Gen Z takes over, we'll be retired hopefully by then. But when Gen Z takes over, it'll flip. Because I think Gen Z works a lot more like the boomers than they would ever actually admit.
I bet they do.
Because I think they're a lot more like, we have to all collaborate. And so
We
so
have
I
to
think it'll
work and
all-
collaborate,
I think it'll flip
and
back.
I think it might.
But Gen X and millennials are... Gen X is definitely like, stay the fuck away from me.
Yeah, stay away from me. Let me do my
Millennials
job.
are a little bit more in between, but they're going to be a little bit more like, come once a week.
Yeah, like we can talk, but
here's your
don't
cube.
overstay your welcome.
Yeah. It won't be open office. It'll be like
let me
we're
have my
gonna have
space.
some space,
Let me have
and
my
it's going to be
space.
temp spaces because you're not supposed to be here all the time.
Right.
And then Gen Z will be like, no, we're going back to the open office. Like I could see that.
I could
actually
kind of
think
see
that's
that.
how it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's not like a hit against Gen Z or Gen Z for anybody listening.
Yeah,
It's
Gen Z, if you're listening, please,
We're saying
please
you're
subscribe.
hard workers,
Please subscribe
and you want to
spread the word of the
work.
show. Please, Gen Z, we need your support.
but we're saying like you want to work, which is the opposite of what other generations are saying.
Is it?
Yes.
Our generation's the one that always got the.
We always
don't
get
wanna
shit on no
work.
matter what, and they still shit on us.
They still
it's
shit
just,
on
it's
us. So
very
like,
interesting.
There's people that are fucking 40 years old that are our
Yes,
generation.
it's like I'm sorry, but I think that's just like the thing now. It's just like, well, it's easy to blame the millennials, but
And I don't know
I don't
why.
even understand why.
Jim is on the phone, like we said, and he can't hear, so he turns the power off to the shredder. And Dwight is being very methodical with the shredder too. He's doing like one sheet at a time.
Oh, it's horrible.
So
And then shaking it.
yes. And in response to Jim turning the power off,
Oh my god, horrible. This is horrible.
yes, Dwight hangs up on the
On the
client.
customer
Yeah.
or client or whatever.
Customers, yeah.
I don't know which word it is,
I
but
think-
they hang up on him.
Yes. And which is terrible. That's why I said like they're
real bad.
antagonistic to each other. And Dwight says he wants to say tit for tat,
Yeah, he wants to say tit for tat.
but he
That
says
is what he goes for.
tit for tit. And Jim goes, that is not the expression.
No.
Dwight goes, well, it should be. Jim explains that this client just kind of loves him, and he actually gets kind of like pepped up about it. John Krasinski does, and he's like, this is his biggest sale of the year. It actually accounts for 25% of his commission, which is probably a lot.
Right.
And this year, he's pushing recycled paper on them for 1% more. And he says, I know, he's getting cocky, but he's going to try it.
Right.
He keeps this little, like, mini champagne bottle in his desk, too, to celebrate. Because it's a big sale, you know?
Right, it's a big deal
It's
for
a lot
him.
of your salary. I get that. I accomplished something recently at work. I do it from time to time. Every once in a while I accomplish something. I treated myself to a dinner out
Oh, look at you.
for myself.
Look at you.
Which for me usually consists of like Chili's or something like that. It's not like I'm not going to get a steak. It should be. Maybe one day I'll amp myself up and I'll be like, I really accomplished something. I should get like a steak.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Fancy.
it's usually like I'm going to get myself that bowl of chili that I really
Yeah.
like.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Pam is playing solitaire
Right.
at her desk, and Jim is pointing out like where she could win. It's free cell solitaire, which I never really is free cell solitaire the real solitaire? Because I always remember not liking free cell as much as like actual solitaire.
Yeah, I prefer actual solitaire. I never really did free cell,
Yeah,
honestly.
I wasn't like a huge fan of free cell.
But man, those games that came with Microsoft,
They don't come with them anymore.
they don't. I'm kind of surprised.
I
I'm
guess
kind
'cause
of
you
not, but I'm
can
also surprised.
Go on the internet and do it. Or
yeah,
your
but give me my
phone.
little app
Just
on the
give
on
me
the
my
on the
solitaire.
computer. You
'Cause
know,
I would
where's my
love-
pinball? Where's that?
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
What I will do now is if I'm like watching videos while bored, I will play like Tetris
Oh yeah,
or
Tetris is
something
typical.
at the same time. Mm-hmm. But solitaire would have been a especially like getting.
Oh god, that's
'cause-
so just.
'cause-
As Pam points out,
Yes.
I
Okay,
like to
okay.
watch them.
Yeah.
It's great. Oh, that's so satisfying. And then they bounce on the screen and they do all of that.
Dwight comes over and asks what her win rate is, and she says that it's 76%. And Dwight won't tell because it's obviously like smaller than 76%. But he says that since Jim was helping, that she should have to start over.
Because it's solitary.
that's
It is
something-
one person.
That's something I remember though, is like keeping track of that percentage point and like how
Oh,
many
I
wins I
hated
had.
that.
I always loved that.
Well, I mean,
Now I have to find it. And see
you
if I
want
can
to keep it like a
install
higher percentage.
Oh yeah.
I do that with Sudoku on my phone. It gives you a percentage.
You
wanna
want
keep that nice
tell,
and
You
high.
want to tell everyone what your percentage?
Well, I mean, it's just like how fast you are. and
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I mean, it depends.
Yeah, I have the same thing with Tetris. My record is like 600.
I don't know. We've had like huge scores with that stuff.
Anyway, Michael times it.
Why
I
does he do
love this shot.
Is it a power play?
He's attempting to make good with Mr. Brown.
Okay.
I think. I don't think it's a power play. I think it's more like he's trying to show how
how
hip
good he
is.
is.
Yeah, he times this to come out of the door at the same time as the diversity trainer. Like he walks back in, and then he hears the door, so he comes out at the same time. It's such a Michael thing to do. Mm-hmm. And he goes over and immediately starts talking to Oscar because Oscar Martinez.
Right. I don't even know his last name.
Yeah, first name basis only.
That's not a good thing.
yeah. Not showing that that's not a good thing. He doesn't even think about it. It's time for the diversity training. Mm-hmm. And Michael stops Jim from again trying to make the call because he has to go to the diversity training.
Right.
If I was Jim, I'd probably just be like, "Can you just give me like 5 minutes?
Just give me 5 minutes. I'm on the phone with a
to
client.
close this, and I'll come right in."
Right.
But he goes in to pointed out in the commentary that if you look at the phone on the desk when Jim hangs up, there's like it's clearly not attached because there's
Right.
no
There's
number
nothing's
or anything.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they fill out these cards when they're in the room, and the guy starts giving his spiel, and Michael keeps interrupting him with fake statistics.
Like he's supposed to be talking with him.
I mean, Michael does this the entire series,
Oh my
where he
God.
thinks he's supposed to talk to him, and he's supposed to be like part of the show. One thing that I noticed compared to some of the other episodes that in season 1 is that some people are missing. So I didn't know if this was supposed to be
Right.
indicative of the downsizing because some of them come back in future episodes
Sure.
of season 1 and then they leave again. But this is like the core group. Like
Right.
you see the core of what the office is
Yeah,
made
pretty
of
much.
in that room.
Mm-hmm.
It's them. This is where Michael says we don't pretend we are colorblind.
Yeah, we're it's a
are-
color-free zone.
Yeah. And
And he's like, well, that's exactly what we're trying
we're
to
trying not to
avoid.
say like we are. His
We are
point
diverse. We see the
is that
colors.
we see colors, we see
but,
differences, but that's not what makes any of us.
Yeah, like everything that's Michael says, he goes, is exactly what we're trying not to do
Yes.
here.
Yes. He suggests that they Michael
Michael suggests, oh my god.
go ahead.
He wants everybody to tell a race that they're sexually attracted to.
Yes.
What?
Like that's going to prove anything
What is
or
that proving?
be anything.
Yeah, what does that even
Or be helpful.
mean?
And,
And of course, Dwight.
Dwight immediately volunteers and he says does he say white or does he say Caucasian?
No, he says white.
Okay, he says white. Caucasian would have been more Dwight, but whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. But he says
White and Indian with Kelly, played by Mindy Kaling,
sitting right next to him. And then she even makes a face like, oh.
This would be the first we see of Kelly. We didn't see her in the pilot that I can remember. She was probably in one of the group shots.
It might have been in the group shots.
Yeah.
But she wasn't ever
This
vocal.
is the first zoom in on her face, for
Yes.
sure. I love that how they do the zoom ins to catch the reaction, too, of Kelly just being, like, horrified.
Yes. Like, oh, God. Brown makes him sit down, though.
Yes, and he actually does something to appease Michael, which is he asks permission from Michael to run the meeting, and Michael grants him permission. So he actually kind of knows how to deal with someone like Michael.
Well,
at
I mean,
first.
he is kind of that relations person, though. He should know how to
Sure,
do that.
that's
so
true.
he kind of goes, look, I have to treat him like a child. And he's saying, this is my room. I have to make sure that it's okay for me to be in this room. And that's how he deals with him, which, you know what? Fair. It works.
He had the diversity. Okay, we should point out that the diversity trainer is played by Larry Wilmore, who's a very veteran TV creator and producer and writer. He made the PJs, and I think he had something to do with. Did he have something to do with Bernie Mac show? Maybe
He's well known.
big.
Yeah.
And according to the commentary, they brought him in to do just the table read because they hadn't cast the part yet. So they were
Oh,
like,
that's
"Larry,
funny.
can you play?
Can you just do this for us
part?"
real quick?
And they were like, he was so good at, like he captured the essence of what they
He
were
was
trying
like,
to
"This
get.
is
So
what
they
we
were
wanted."
like, just have him do it.
Which he does very well.
Yes, he plays this very real world.
Yes. Yes.
So he had all of them write down an incident on a card
Sure.
that they found offensive, and everyone wrote down the same incident, which was the Chris Rock routine.
Yes.
Before they do that, though, Dwight says that... Does Dwight say this? I think he says this.
Which is very weird.
He says, can we steer away from gay people, as it is not a race, and a lot of other races are intolerant of gays, so... Paradox? Or something like that?
I think he does. Yeah, I think it's Paradox.
So, like, a funny...
Which is, like,
moment.
so weird.
Yeah.
It's
Like, let's just talk about races.
But, like, but you're right. You were saying, because I think they mainly were coming in to talk about race.
Because of this particular
incident. But the diversity stuff, it of course it would come back with sexuality and gender and
Ageism
race and
and-
ageism and all of that stuff. So it's just like him going, we're going to steer away from that. And it's like,
This
kind
is,
of a tell right there.
This is when Michael, who you thought would have asked who this guy was before, but he's like, Mr., and he tells his name, which is Mr. Brown, and he goes, oh, first test, I will not call you that. And he's like, well, you can call me that because that's my name. So the Chris Rock routine. So he wants to know who's familiar with what happened here. Kevin volunteers to be able to say it. And Michael's like, well, I could be the Chris Rock guy. And he's like, why don't we have somebody that wasn't involved
in the
incident?
event.
So
Which is funny because then it means he knows
he
about
knows
it already.
why he's there.
He
yeah.
already knows about it.
Yeah. Michael laments that Chris Rock could do this routine. And when he
this
does
is his
they file
in
a
his
complaint.
yes.
Is
It's
that
like,
because he's white?
Or is that because he's yes.
It's more because you shouldn't be telling those kind of jokes at work.
Well, it's both though. Like,
Well, sure.
it's kind of like you don't really have the right to make that joke. Come on. And then no, that is very inappropriate for work. What's wrong with you?
I like the moment when Michael wants to do it and the office groans. The whole office is like, oh god. Okay. So for those that don't know this routine, because obviously it's 20 years old now or so,
Yeah, it's pretty old.
I don't remember what special it is on the Chris Rock, like the Chris Rock's CD or like a HBO special or something. Mm-hmm. I know the routine. It's a very popular
He can be pretty funny. Yeah.
joke. What Kevin says is accurate to
But he
the
doesn't
purpose
say
of the joke.
with all the vernacular that Chris Rock does.
Right, that Chris Rock is able to do as a comedian and an entertainer.
As a black comedian. It's true though.
and
It's
so-
true.
yes.
And Kevin was doing it very respectfully. He was,
and getting
he was
the point
explaining
across.
yes,
And you understand what the joke is.
You definitely
and
do.
And it's a funny joke.
and then
But Michael very funnily, in my opinion.
I mean, it is funny because it's
Because of
horrible.
of just the situation is.
Yes,
He cannot let Kevin say the joke wrong.
because he wants it to be verbatim.
Yeah, so he just gets up and he starts doing a Chris Rock
Impression.
and doesn't.
And it's bleeped.
And it bleeps him.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's ruined. He's butchering it. Could you just let me? Every time black people want to have a good time, some ignorant ass. I take care of my kids. Kids always want credit for something they're supposed to do. What you want, a cookie?
So
if you want to know what that is, I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, you can go find the
Go
Chris
watch
Rock
the Chris
routine.
Rock one.
And I like Mr. Brown's reaction of just like, stop it! Like he gets
Yes.
like, because it's the exact opposite of what this is supposed to be. Steve Carell's face too, while Kevin is trying to explain it, of just like it's like watching.
He's like holding back.
yes, and he just
He's a
can't.
child holding back.
Yes, it's like when somebody is repeating something, or
That you know very well.
I get this a lot at work where someone will explain the plot of like a comic book movie wrong or something, and it's like
I want to help.
I'm a
nerd.
I'm a nerd, but I'm also not. I'm not socially inept, so
Yeah, you're not going to do the, well, actually.
yeah, I'm not gonna actually this person. I might in my head know what the fact, and you fuckers don't do that to me either when I get my facts wrong. It makes sense where it's like,
Sometimes you can like, I
just
think
let
that
it
was
go, or
actually
it's
this,
like, yeah, it was,
which is no big deal.
If it makes sense to do that, or if
Yeah.
they can't remember a fact, like you can
butt
interject
in.
the fact, but who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't
We're
really
not
matter.
helping anybody here, folks, by being the fact police. Mm-hmm. Well, there should be fact police.
Well, that's just,
Some
I mean,
fact
for
checkers.
some
Fact
things,
checkers.
fact checkers, yes,
yeah.
that's...
Fact police sounds a little too much 1984.
Yeah, that just like, then they like force the facts,
That's right.
and that's
Mind
not a
the-
fact.
The Ministry of Truth.
Yeah, back to 1984.
I don't know why The Office brings out 1984.
I don't know, it's very interesting. I mean, it kind of
fits.
but it also is a weird.
Yeah. Anyway, so the client is calling Jim because the phone, it's blinking,
Right, yes.
but he's stuck in this meeting. And it's supposed to only be an hour-long meeting, but of course, because it's Michael, you can't
You
just
can't
have
get
an
it
hour-long
to happen, right.
The great little moment when Michael is done doing the Chris Rock bit, and he keeps coming back to like, what do you want, a cookie? That's
And it's so ignorant to
probably
say.
It probably makes no sense, but like he has to add that in because that's part of the routine, so he like has to say it. But I figured most people, if they haven't watched
if you don't
are like,
remember
why
it or
did
you
he
never-
say that?
But it's so ignorant. It's so ignorant to say that, especially after like the guy told him to just completely
Well, I mean,
stop.
Yeah, but,
Like,
but he's
really?
Michael, you can't not.
No.
They come back and so I mean, anybody that's taken these kind of courses, there might be some instances where there are acronyms to remember different things, and they use HERO. So be a hero, act with honesty and empathy and respect and open-mindedness.
Which is nice. It's nice.
Sure.
What?
I don't know. I think
It might be very corporate, but it's a nice
very
thought.
corporate.
It's
It's
a
very
nice
corporate.
thought.
Dwight has a problem
Of course he
with
does.
this because he doesn't think that this is what makes a hero. And
Well-
Mr. Brown, go ahead. I was going to say, Mr. Brown asks Dwight, what does he think a hero is? I'll let you talk.
Well, he describes a superhero in this, which is different than a hero, because he says that they should be supernatural.
It's at least part supernatural.
They should kill people.
And then,
Oh yeah, part supernatural.
yes.
And then they should be born out of childhood trauma, avenged.
And
Yeah.
Mr. Brown just goes, I think you're describing a superhero.
I'm glad he did point that out because that's exactly what I thought, and I'm like, good. I'm glad he at least goes, that's a superhero. We're talking about heroes.
And Dwight, completely stone-faced, just says, we all have a hero in our heart.
Which is so weird.
And Mr. Brown just stares at him. Cannot have like a response.
He doesn't know what to respond.
Yeah,
like
he has
I
no
wouldn't
idea
know
what
what
to
to
say.
respond. I'd be like, anyways. Moving
Michael
on.
says that hero, and this is in the superfan cut, is empty. It comes too easy, and he's come up with some terms himself. So he's come up with
And had Dwight write it on a board.
and had Dwight write it down: inclusion, new attitudes, colorblind.
Which so far was like, he was like, okay. Inclusion, new attitudes, which was really good to him. Then he said colorblind.
Which wasn't supposed to be
Right.
one of them.
Expectations,
Okay, that's fine. I think it's fine.
sharing, and tolerance.
Sure, and tolerance, sure. Oh, wait a minute.
Did I miss one?
No, that's it. INCEST. Oh, that's incest. Great.
Yep, that's that spells incest, and Pam points that
So
out
Pam points it out,
because she immediately sees the word incest,
and
and he goes, "Nope, that's inappropriate.
inappropriate
Not
as a
ideal. Let's not do
memory."
that. No."
And then Michael is like, no, this could be okay because the states with a lot of racism.
Oh, good lord.
Rachel, this is true. These are facts. These are just facts, Rachel.
Yeah. Totally facts.
Hold on.
Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
Don't-
I'm sorry.
Fuck your feelings, Rachel. These are facts. Okay? I'm sorry that I have to be this blunt with you, but these are facts. Okay?
Okay, go ahead. Tell Michael Scott's facts
Okay.
then for me, please.
That states with a lot of racism are also the ones with a lot of incest. And if everyone were to interracially date, there would be less incest. So,
And we're all a family.
so it would kind of work. Yes, of course. And of
gross.
course, I am being satirical when I say
Well, we all know that you're being sarcastic.
Ryan tries to go into a story where, again, in the Superfan edit, where he grew up in Scranton next to this guy that played in the majors before they were integrated. I don't understand. I guess because the focus isn't on Michael.
Yes,
Is that why?
Well, because he's also the intern, and he doesn't want him to actually
Temp.
make a good. I'm sorry, he's also a temp, and he doesn't want him to make a good point.
Okay. Yeah.
He's because he doesn't want to be wrong.
Okay. Because for some
Because he
reason,
started off with like a really nice story. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the story, and then he cuts him off and goes, "No, he's a temp."
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
makes him
He's not really
leave.
part of this office. Yeah, and makes him leave. Which I think was supposed to be part of the acceptance thing where he's just like, no, this guy isn't part of like our group.
But that's like, it's like, of course he is.
and,
like,
he tells him to go make sure that no one's in the handicap spots because he's just making him do like busy work. Which, like, if you're Ryan, I guess it's just like, I'm getting paid, whatever.
yeah.
Pam also points out that he could have easily just said insect because it's the exact same letters. And
Yeah, but-
she's like, that wouldn't have made any sense either.
But it would have been better.
would have been better.
I could tell you that.
Pam is asked by the documentary crew if she can say good things about Michael. And she goes, yeah, there's good things about Michael. And there's a lot of dead
Just a
space.
heavy pause.
Brown takes the forms and has them sign them all as a group pledge to be heroes. Michael says he can't sign,
Which is seriously.
and it's because it says that he learned something, but he didn't learn anything. So he
Great.
can't sign it.
You refuse to learn anything, Michael.
But again, this is Michael's lack of self-awareness. He truly thinks
He thinks he's like
is
doing
the
a good thing.
most. He truly thinks, yes, he's the most. I don't like this term because it's been. I'm not gonna say woke because I just.
You can't.
They've
'cause
bastardized that term.
Yeah, you just can't.
It really should just be progressive. He truly thinks he's the most progressive person at the office, and the most inclusive and the most friendly. He
Right.
doesn't understand that he's the least. But he refuses to learn because he doesn't think he has to. Mm-hmm. This is when
Brown tells him the truth.
So Mr. Brown then comes clean to Michael and tells him that he only was supposed to come out to this training. They're only doing this because of Michael.
Right.
And the only signature he needs is Michael's
Right.
for corporate. And he only made everybody else do it so that he wouldn't feel embarrassed.
Right.
And Michael still doesn't get it.
No, he still doesn't get it.
He still just thinks that, like, I actually think if you look at Steve Carell's face in this, I think he actually does kind of get it, but he doesn't want to admit it.
No, of course he doesn't, because he doesn't want to admit that he's wrong.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right. So he signs it.
Which is a very boss thing.
Sure. And he gives him a copy of it, and Mr. Brown leaves. But Michael reveals
Being Michael.
that he signed it Daffy Duck. And he thinks that that Brown is going to, like, flip out when he sees it. Now,
Which, I mean, I guess if he looked at it, he might look at it.
I told
I
you
could
when-
see him as Brown might look at it, though.
Maybe. I told you when I was watching this, I think it's just going to, especially with the way Dunder Mifflin is run,
True.
it's going to be shoved in a drawer at corporate, if that. And that's
They did
the
their
end of
job,
it.
that's
They
the
did
end
their
of it.
job. They stamped the thing. And maybe if something else happens, they can point out that this was your first, thing.
Right.
That's as much as I think is actually going to happen, though. Yeah. So Jim is trying again, and the guy isn't there. And he's getting a little anxious now.
Yeah.
I remember this was the first time actually, like, rewatching this that I focused in more on the Jim story.
I did too.
As a teenager and in college, I always was more look at how dumb Michael is and making,
Right.
all the diversity jokes. More, but I like this time I was actually like, oh, like Jim is really kind of in, like this
He's
sucks.
stressed out. Yeah.
And it's because as an adult I feel for him, like, oh
Of
God,
course,
like
'cause
this is
it's like
just
when
the
you
one
have a
thing he
project-
wants to do.
When you have a project, when you have like a client, when you have any of that,
Yeah.
and it's not working out, it's stressful.
Yeah. So like I completely understood more Jim's troubles in this, which is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Michael walks out of his office. And
Oh, there's so many groans in this one.
He says which is why I love this episode.
Yeah.
He rips up the pledge because he goes like he says the thing about like I will always like be a good person and like something that is so milquetoast, like everyone should strive for.
Right.
And he just rips the pledge up because he truly believes in his heart that everyone is on his side. And then realizing that
we don't need a pledge, that we are just good people.
yeah, he realizes that they're not, and his he face turns, and he says like, I actually believe in that part, but a pledge, come on, we don't need a pledge. We're gonna do it our way. He wants to do it his
way.
Yeah.
Not our way.
So he tells them all he wants his Oprah moment. He wants people to be crying to think about the wrongs that they've done in their lives when they haven't been sensitive to each other, which again is funny because it's Michael's fault.
Michael's literally talking about himself, and he's not doing any of that.
So he tells them all to get as much done as they can before lunch, because after he's going to have them all in tears. And that sets up Diversity Day Part 2. They all go in, like, can you imagine having to do this stuff? Just to go along with this?
I mean, I want to say that I wouldn't go along with it, but I feel like you'd be forced to because he's the boss.
I guess so.
Right?
I can't imagine working like long term.
I would hate
This
this.
office.
I would hate this.
So So he sets up Diversity Day Part 2. And they all go in the conference room. And as they're walking in, Toby, this is the first time we get Toby.
Yes.
He tries to make a little joke
Sure.
about which today you wouldn't be able to say.
Well,
that.
no. Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a term.
Yeah, it was just a term.
Which
like
is-
nowadays you'd be more like you'd say
You'd just say crisscross.
Yeah. Sitting
Crisscross,
It's probably out
yeah.
of vernacular now.
Right, which is like sitting in a circle, crisscross.
Yeah.
Which I think is how they say crisscross applesauce.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, so he now
But because he said that,
Michael comes out because it's Toby.
because it's Toby.
I think anybody else could have said that.
Yes, and
Michael probably
like,
wouldn't have said
or he would have been
anything.
like, "Yes, that's what we're here to do."
Yes,
today."
exactly.
But because it was
it's
Toby,
Toby.
he's like, you know what? You can just get the hell out of here. And
Which is like, don't you think you should make him stay because of that?
Yeah, he should have to stay because of that.
Hey, we're not all gonna sit in a circle Indian style, are we?
Get out.
Sorry.
No, this is not a joke. Okay? It was offensive and lame. So double offensive. This is an environment of welcoming, and you should just get the hell out of here.
But he kicks Toby out, so it's the first time that Michael kicks Toby out and excludes him from being allowed.
He just hates him.
Michael tells them all to sit, and he pops on a tape. And you
Oh, I
want to
do-
talk about a
I do love that
wonderful moment.
Yeah. I do love the sign.
Because it's out of, like, old printer paper?
Yeah, like the old long printer paper. Like I used to I'll tell you fun little stories that I used to have like the reams of that where it was all connected and you could like rip off the sides and I would draw on
so
it.
fun.
And like you draw like comics and stuff that would keep going because they were just like all connected. So you just have this long ass piece of paper.
Yeah. He puts
Yes,
on
now he
this
puts on
tape.
this video. Go ahead, Kev. Describe this lovely video.
Okay, so Michael has taken his lunch hour to film. He's started his own diversity company, which in the commentary they talk about how they had to keep coming up with a new name for a diversity company because everything that they could come up with was a real diversity company, which just tells you how hokey a lot of these can be.
Yeah.
So eventually they came up with Diversity Today, and Michael comes up with Diversity Tomorrow because today is almost over. But it's clearly shot by Dwight. He's trying to be very dramatic and like
Do the zoom ins and stuff.
and when Michael's trying to act like you would in an old like 1990s infomercial type thing. And
He likes poses and stuff.
yeah, he props his leg up on the chair.
His speech.
This quote. This false,
It brings back his hero.
It does bring
Abraham
back
Lincoln.
It brings back his hero. It spawned a fan site. It is the perfect fake Michael Scott thinking that this is somehow insightful, where he says Abraham Lincoln once said, which I don't even know if
I don't even think it's a real quote. Is it a
I don't
real
even
quote?
think racist was a term.
I don't think it
necessarily.
was.
But he says Abraham Lincoln once said, "If you're a racist, I will attack you from the north."
All right.
And that's the kind of thinking that I bring to the workplace every day.
And then it ends.
And then it ends. It just ends
on that quote.
So that apparently there's a fan site called Northern Attack that is because of this, which I may want to change your name now. But that was because of that quote. Very, very random.
That's
of
so
the
random.
Office fans. I love that it cuts off, it goes to static, and he just goes, comments, questions? Like, people are going to have a thought about the one thing he said.
Yes.
Jim, of course, being Jim, just goes, was that it? And he's like, well, I only had the hour. So he was able to do enough with it.
Oh my god.
Kevin says it was a little hard to hear, and Michael goes, that might have been because of the cameraman. And
It goes to
they
Dwight.
shift over to Dwight, and he looks so distraught.
Yes.
Kelly has a meeting,
Customer meeting, yeah.
so she has to leave. And Michael says, well, if you leave, we only have 2 left. So, go ahead.
And then says namaste. The man is just
Namaste.
footing he just literally is eating his feet at this point.
So Michael...
But yeah, there's only 2 left, which can you expect? Do you know what that means? Yeah.
Figure that out.
Anyways,
Michael sits in the chair. He's trying to sit cool in the chair.
because he's a cool boss.
Saved by the Bell style. Yes, because he's a cool boss. And we find out that he's part English, Irish, German, and Scottish. So he's a little United Nations inside of him. The joke being, of
The
course,
European
it's very
mutt.
European. And Pam says that in her interview, she was asked by Michael what Beasley was. And he got angry because
She knew the joke he was
she
trying
knew
to
that
set
she
up.
was trying to set up like a little, do you have a little Irish in you? No. Do you want to? Yeah. Like, this was in her interview.
It's in your interview.
And she says that he got mad and stormed out.
In your interview. Why did you stay with the company? If that was a question at my interview, I would have been out of there.
Times can be tough, Rachel. Folks at home, we know that this could be a hard economic time for those of you out there. So we're hoping that the Office episodes are bringing some light to your situations, because it could be worse. You could work for Michael Gary Scott.
That's very true.
That's true.
That's actually a very
That's
true
actually
statement.
very true.
That's a great statement right there.
Yes.
Just think about it. Is Michael Scott
Well,
your boss?
I'm very proud of my
Oh,
great
good lord.
statement. I'm sorry.
Is McMahon your
Do
boss?
you want me to explain myself to you? I didn't think I was showing up on this episode, but since you asked, I suppose I will.
Oh, God.
It's not like I almost lost my company for having a personal affair with a paralegal in my office that I own. Excuse me, that's my office. If I want to have sex with all the wrestlers, I will.
Please, McMahon, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
No, in fact, instead of that, I'm going to sell my company,
Oh, good lord.
and I'm going to take it back over. We have Diversity Day at the WWE every day. I actually can see him doing a lot of the Michael Scott things in this episode.
You really would.
He might be the most talked about CEO on Shelf Life.
Yeah, but it makes sense. He's very front-facing.
He's very front-facing, and he's a character.
And he's just a character.
We're not doing the real Vince McMahon. We're doing fake Vince McMahon.
We're doing character Vince McMahon,
Yeah.
which
Last
is very
Vince.
close to the real.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got on that.
Anyway.
Oscar's parents were Mexican. He was born in the U.S. a year after they came. So he's the American dream, according to Michael. And Michael wants to know if there's a term other than Mexican that he could use that's less offensive. And
I'm from Mexico, and it's called Mexican.
And Oscar says that it's not offensive, and Michael's like, well, in certain connotations. And so then Oscar, knowing that he's got Michael's put his foot in his mouth again, is like, in what connotations, Michael? And he's like, so it just kind of ends. The scene just kind of ends. Jim runs out to try to pick up the phone again, and it's too late again, so he missed the call again.
And Ryan's sitting in the background.
Ryan's just sitting in the background, just sitting there.
Just sitting there. He's not even working at this point. He's just he doesn't get to participate.
So then we get the most famous part, probably, of the episode, where they all put these cards on their heads because Michael is asking them to walk around
In somebody else's shoes type of idea.
Yeah.
But in a horrible way.
and he wants
In a horrible way.
he wants all of them
To act racist to each other. Be the stereotype, act like the other person is the stereotype,
Yes.
and be a racist individual.
I can. This is gonna come off bad. I get what he wants.
He's trying to make
do.
you walk in another person's shoes,
like you
but
said,
in a
yes.
horrible way.
But it's just the worst possible thing he could possibly think of.
Yes.
Do you want to know the list of everyone's cards, Rachel?
Yes, I do.
Because I have it up from
Please tell me.
Dunderpedia
I
here.
would love to hear it. Leave the best for last.
Yeah, I'm just going to go down the list. Michael was Martin Luther King Jr. because he has a dream, and he thinks of himself, MLK is one of his heroes. Dwight was Asian, and at one point Dwight, which we'll get to. Stanley was black. Totally coincidence. Which
Yeah.
it was a coincidence.
Which was a coincidence, but, I mean,
It was
he
just
could have
funny.
corrected
It. Was funny. That reveal when they're going down the line and it says black on Stanley's head is funny.
It does make you laugh.
Yeah. Angela got Jamaican. Kevin got Italian, which was an issue. The Italians were persecuted for a good portion of American history, at least American history. Meredith got Brazilian. Pam got Jewish. Oscar is Eskimo. Creed is Puerto Rican. Phyllis is Haitian. And then
He picked some like interesting choices.
And Devin got West Nile because Michael clearly either ran out of ideas or thinks that West Nile is a race.
Because it's just a.
They reveal in the commentary that one of the ones that got cut was that Michael put Szechuan.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah, that sounds about right too. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's probably his favorite meal.
So they're doing a lot of walking around, and they're doing this, and Michael is excited because Pam and Stanley are talking to each other, and it is the Holocaust versus slavery.
Which he then obviously reveals what's on their cards.
Stanley is like, "Wait, what
Are
is
you
on this?"
kidding
And Stanley
me?
realizes that he got like, and Michael's like, "That was a coincidence."
Which, like we said, it actually was, but it's just a funny coincidence.
The way that Michael says like that was an accident, but it was just a coincidence. We would always do in college too, when it was like something would awkwardly happen. We'd be like, "That was a coincidence." Like we would try to mimic the motion.
Of course.
Jim decides to do something because he realizes what's going on. So he starts planning a prank. And Pam is asked to do it with Dwight, do the race thing with Dwight. And
She's
Michael-
trying to be, and she's actually being like polite.
Well, she says something about like, "I like your food."
Right.
And-
She starts off with the food.
Yeah. And Michael,
And Scott says no.
who's been like going around the room thinking that he's like doing a great job, but Michael says like, "Come on, Pam, stir the melting pot, Pam."
Oh my god.
In a really, really funny moment. Pam says that based on stereotypes that she completely does not believe in,
Right.
that maybe this would mean that you are not a very good driver. And Dwight has Asian on his head.
Right.
That's a stereotype.
Which is a stereotype.
And
He immediately says, "I'm a woman?
so...
It's not a race!"
But it is, that's
But
very
it is exactly
funny because
Dwight.
and of course it reveals
Another
more
stereotype.
problems. Yeah. It just causes more problems. Which I also think that between like this and the sexual harassment episode in season 2, like whenever Michael tries to make something better his way, it just causes more issues like that. Where it's
No,
like
yeah,
it just
of
reveals
course.
more problems.
Right.
I almost said the theatrical cut. The television cut, in my opinion, is better.
Ooh, okay.
So the Superfan
Explain.
edit does this thing where Jim is like, "You're right, Dwight, like you shouldn't have women on your head." And he puts another card on Dwight's head, and they do the bit again, and Dwight is trying to figure out who he is, and he's like, "Am I a nomad? Am I this? Am I that?" And Pam keeps saying no, and is like trying
And
not
like
to laugh.
trying is giggling.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it turns out that I think Angela like shows Dwight that it says Dwight. It's fine. It's a little bit. It's fine. Like it gives you
Yeah.
the Jim Pam Dwight thing.
Yeah, because he was just trying to stop him.
However, I think that the cut immediately from "Oh man, am I a woman?" to Michael saying that he didn't pick Arab is much faster. And it gives you that punch of Dwight
Yeah, of him saying it.
and then right to
No, that
otherwise
makes sense.
when Jim
It
has
kinda
a
cools it off
response
a
to
little
it,
bit.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm glad we have both versions because
Oh,
you
yeah,
can pick
'cause
and
it's
choose which one you
interesting to
want.
see.
But I think that the theatrical cut, I'm just going to call it the theatrical
I think
cut.
you have to.
The theatrical cut is better in that regard. So then Michael does do another great little self-aware, like terribly unself-aware thing where he says, he didn't pick Arab. Too explosive. No pun intended. Like, he but just too soon, you know? Because remember, folks, this is 2005.
this
so this is
happened
4 years after 9/11, so there was, probably still
A
is,
lot
a lot, but
of-
there was a lot of
Of racism.
for people of Middle Eastern descent
Exactly.
and Muslim, that type, Islam,
Right.
that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Ryan, because he has nothing else to do, and I think also it's supposed to be commentary on diversity and race, has downloaded Chappelle's Show on his
course.
computer. and is watching Chappelle's show. Ryan asks Jim if he thinks Pam will mind, and he says no, she likes this show or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Ryan says she's cute, right? Meaning the girl
that
in
he's
the
watching.
sketch.
But Jim replies,
yeah, but she's engaged. So clearly he thought that Ryan was talking about Pam.
which makes sense in the audio.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think it reveals that much about Jim as we're supposed to think, because, like, if you're...
You can still say somebody's cute.
And you wouldn't even say that, and if in my opinion, this is just me saying this,
Okay.
like a coworker were to say something about, like, another coworker or somebody at the office, or like, oh, you know that cute girl that works in HR or whatever.
Yeah.
Like somebody we don't know. My gut reaction at work is always to just, my anus squeezes up and is like, don't say anything stupid, or don't say anything inappropriate, or oh God, so I hope this person doesn't say something. More likely, because I'm usually the prude, is I hope this person doesn't say anything inappropriate.
Right,
So
because you're just like, please don't.
my
'cause I don't wanna
initial
deal with you.
reaction would probably be to do exactly what Jim said, which is, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And just agree with them. Like we're saying with everything else office-wise, where it's like, just agree with them and move on.
Right.
So you don't
You
have
just
to
want to
deal
get
with
out
it.
of the situation.
So I don't think it reveals as much about Jim's feelings for Pam as the show might think it does, just because of the dynamics of that scene.
Because he thinks she's cute, but yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of one of those things where it's like he's just going, yeah, sure, she's cute, but she's engaged, you know. So it's like
Yeah, because he thought she was talking about Pam.
Pam, and then at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, but I feel like sure he can think she's cute without being like, I have the hots for her. So I see what you mean.
Angela and Kevin are going back and forth, and Angela is trying to, or they're like trying to figure out what they want, and Kevin goes, "Do you want to get high?" And Angela goes, "No," and Kevin shifts his eyes back and forth. Ryan Baumgartner playing Kevin.
Hey,
Hey,
you want to go to the beach?
sure.
You want to get high?
No?
I think you do, Mon.
Stop it.
Okay.
And that is such a funny delivery.
He does it so like this is as far as I will
Yeah,
go,
deadpan of like, I know I'm supposed to do this.
and this is as far as I'm gonna
Yeah.
go.
It's such a great
And Michael
moment.
wants him to go more, and this is when
Yes. So Kelly comes back in, and now remember, Kelly left before this whole gimmick was devised by Michael.
Right, so she has no
doesn't
idea what's
know what's
happening.
happening here. So she comes back in, and Michael, with a stereotypical Indian accent, begins talking to Kelly.
because he's trying to show them. Let me show you how it's done.
Yes, he's trying to show how it's done. Kelly's not in on it, so he starts.
He pretty much does an Apu.
This is not a poo. This is. I mean, you might say like his accent is a poo, but
Well,
like
because he
he's-
says the convenience store stuff, and like I feel like
Yeah, I guess
Apu's
so.
kind of a stereotypical character.
Yeah.
and he does an Indian accent.
Yes, yeah, he does talk
poorly.
about a convenience store.
He talks about stereotypical
Well,
Indian.
and Michael would only know Indian people from a poo.
yeah.
I would wager.
Well, the only reason I bring up Apu is because he has the Simpsons character in The Office.
Yeah, and like I said, that's his probably Michael Scott's reference points for an Indian.
Right.
Yeah.
So stereotypes.
Yeah.
Saying
He's
gookie.
saying some made up gobbledygook that he thinks is an Indian word.
Kelly, how are you?
I just had the longest meeting.
Oh, welcome to my convenience store. Would you like some googie? Oh, I have some very delicious googie. Only 99 cents plus tax. Try my googie. Try my googie. Try my googie. Try my... All right. Yes. That was great. She gets it. Now she knows what it's like to be a minority.
So, as you would expect, she slaps him across the face.
And he deserves it. Well-deserved slap. Thank you, Kelly.
Michael holds back tears because he got slapped in the face, and probably doesn't understand why he got slapped in the face. And he goes, now she knows what it's like to be a minority. Rachel can't even answer it. It's fine.
I don't have anything to say to that.
Yeah,
one.
you're good. So Jim finally gets back to the guy. Gets back to the customer.
Jim points out the fact that Kelly didn't have a card on her head.
Oh, yes.
So who was she supposed to be, Michael?
Yeah, that's the super fan edit. I think it does the scene just end? I don't even remember after he says that. It might.
I mean, you
'Cause
can
it goes
tell
right
that
to
there's some
Oh, like an awkward
regret.
pause. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, yeah. So like now he realizes what he did. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
and then it goes back to Jim.
Gotcha. Okay. So Jim gets back to the customer. He learns Dwight stole the customer from Jim.
Oh, that's a jackass of a move.
Yes. Like
You don't
like
do
they're-
that
Yeah.
in a company.
Yeah. Yeah, you really don't.
You don't do that.
Or at the very least, he should share the commission with Jim or something.
yeah, especially when it's commissioned work.
yeah.
You don't do that. You're not the contact. Jim is the contact.
Yeah.
That is wrong.
Yeah. Unless Jim kind of said, like, I can't take it.
Here,
like,
can you
why don't
take on my
this one?
customer?
Yeah. So Jim is upset. He puts the bottle of champagne that he got on Dwight's desk, and he did.
Which I think is also wrong.
Well, I think
I
it's
don't
like,
think he should do that.
I think it's Jim just kind of like in defeat. Like Dwight won't get it, but it's Jim's way of saying like, "Congratulations, you ass! You like stole you stole."
Oh,
this from
okay. That part, yeah. No, that makes sense. If you say it in like the sarcastic
kinda
terms of
do
"Thanks for
wonder-
taking my customer, you jackass."
Yeah, I kind of do wonder if in a better company or even in this company, if Jim stood up for himself and went to Michael and would have been like, Dwight just stole my
best
client.
customer. Yep, my client.
If Michael would be obligated to do something, I don't know. I'm not.
Potentially, I don't know either.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's Michael, he might have actually done something.
Maybe or made them share it.
Yeah.
So maybe. But then, but Jim's not the kind of person to.
No, he wouldn't do
tattle,
that.
So
No.
I don't know.
But Dwight is a jackass.
Yes. It's
And I
very
feel
mean.
so bad for Jim.
And again, I never really like picked up on any of that before. So dejected, Jim walks back in the conference room. Michael is just talking, and it feels like he's been talking for a while. The way that everyone's like sitting there exhausted, and Michael says he just wanted to do it his way. You know, he just wanted to do it his own way, which I think is him just like admitting like this didn't
Defeat
go
at this point?
This didn't happen the way he wanted it to, but he just wanted to do it right. In the middle of it. Because Michael at some point is like, we probably should have brought in like food or something. And Kevin still has the Italian thing on his head, so he goes, maybe some spaghetti. And they're like, Kevin, you can take that off your head.
Stop it. Take it off your head. Spaghetti.
Another thing, Pam falls asleep on Jim's shoulder.
Yep. Because she's
bored
exhausted and just
exhausted.
bored.
And Michael gets collard greens wrong. Because he says collard greens.
Colored
and Stanley
greens.
collects them and says colored greens. And
I love Stanley.
And Michael goes, no.
No, that doesn't sound right,
make
'cause you
sense,
don't
'cause you don't call them collared people. Which is kind of a double-pronged thing that I'm just realizing, because collar, like a slave collar?
Oh, I
Like,
didn't
did
even
Michael
think about that.
I think Michael could not have put all that together in his head.
No.
I just put it together, and I've watched this show for 20 years.
Oh my
Or
god,
whatever
that
it
would be
said,
horrible
17.
if that's what he means. Oh, good lord.
So he says, okay, it's after 5, thanks everybody, and everybody leaves. Jim...
It's after 5.
That means that they were doing this the entire afternoon.
Yes.
Jim is sitting there and doesn't want to wake up
I do think this
Pam.
is inappropriate.
That he doesn't wake up Pam?
Yes.
He eventually wakes up Pam. He
Yeah,
kinda, like-
eventually, but he is taking advantage of the situation. It's a little weird.
Yes and no. He should wake up Pam, and he does. I think he doesn't know what to do. It could just
No,
be
he
an
likes it.
awkwardness.
No, he likes it.
Yes, he likes it, because
He doesn't want to wake her up.
as we find out in the last sentence, so he wakes her up.
Yes.
And in the last sentence of the episode is a Jim talking head where he tells us, all in all, not a bad day. And of course, we know he's had a bad day, but it's only not a bad day because Pam
fell asleep on his shoulder. Which, being an adult, I still feel like, because he even says the other episode or earlier, but she's, engaged. He said earlier, she's engaged, and he let her sleep on the shoulder for a little too long. It just lingered a little too long.
Okay.
Like, usually it's like, okay, she fell asleep, whatever, and then he says to leave. When he says you're gonna leave, you kind of just go, okay, hey, wake up.
Okay.
You don't wait until literally everybody leaves the room, and you just kind of sit there and let it happen, and then you go, hey, you were lingering.
Okay. I mean, I understand.
That's all I'm saying. So it's just a little inappropriate considering she's engaged and you're still trying.
I don't. Okay, I slightly disagree. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. One is it's nostalgia that I have for Jim and Pam.
Well, sure, of course, we all love the Jim and Pam. Okay.
Oh, look, we all love Jim and Pam, don't we, folks?
And Pam's in a weird relationship that she shouldn't be in, but she is in a relationship.
I don't think it. I think that Jim.
There's two ways of looking at it. He's
does
just
some
being
things that could be
a friend.
considered too far for the fact that Pam is engaged. I don't necessarily go that route though with this one. I don't know why. I just think that look, she fell asleep on his shoulder. They are friends. He does like her. I know.
Sure.
But I think he was hoping. This is me. Maybe playing devil's advocate. Maybe this is how I feel. That as people got up and left, she would have woken up from that. So.
Oh, I guess maybe.
And then when she doesn't, he's like, what do I do? Because he's even kind of like shifting his eyes around a little bit. So like then he's like, hey.
All right. No, I see your perspective.
But
I'm trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate because I don't really care.
But I also understand that.
I just feel like giving it a different perspective of it kind of lingers.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that. I can see it both ways.
And there's
you
some
can take it any way you want.
ways he doesn't respect that she's engaged.
Sure. No, I get that too.
And it shows later on too.
I get that too. But that is the end of the episode. And that is the end of the theatrical cut. The end of the Superfan edit, you get to see like an uncut version of Michael and Dwight trying to film his diversity tomorrow.
You can see why it took an hour.
Yes, because they're all very bad at it. So that is the end of diversity. Rachel, what did you think?
I was engaged through the episode. I wanted to know what was going to happen with Jim. I wanted to know all the stupid crap that Michael was going to say and how everybody was going to react to it. So it was really interesting. And the fact that it was like, bad crap that he was saying, but at the same time it was entertaining because you just know that he's an idiot.
Yeah, it's not...
And it's bad. It's not like everybody agrees with Michael.
Right, yes. It's not played as these are good jokes or good comments Michael is making. This is a buffoon because he's making these comments. Yes, and when it's done that way, that's the way to poke fun at that attitude.
The topic.
Yeah, that topic. This is a classic for me because it was played. The jokes are very funny. It's a topical humor. You can make fun of Michael. You can quote them back and forth to each other of just like the stupidity.
Oh
of all
yeah,
of it.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean for me, Diversity Day is always going to be a hot button topic or hot button one or the
hot button that's in like just engaging and interesting and fun.
For sure. It's a very funny episode for me, and I think because of the fact that it was rewatched so many times between my roommate and I, it was like one of our like go-tos because of just Michael being dumb.
I like the word
getting,
buffoon
and
for
getting
him.
comeuppance for it.
Yes.
Which is always a plus for me.
It's just so good.
There's a couple
so you want to
episodes-
see him being a buffoon, but you want him to get the comeuppance.
Yeah, and in a funny way. Because there's a couple
Yes.
episodes in this where he gets kind of like that. He gets comeuppance, but it's sad.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
sad.
and those I tend to not like as much because it's too maybe it's too raw and I'm just a bleeding heart or something like that. But it's just a little too visceral. I don't know.
We'll see. I'm rewatching them now from a different perspective.
That is Diversity Day.
Yep.
When we come back, we will get into the third episode of The Office right after this short break.
What did I do? I did my job. I slashed benefits to the bone. I saved this company money. Was I too harsh? Maybe. I don't believe in coddling people. In the wild, there is no health care. In the wild, health care is, ow, I hurt my leg. I can't run. A lion eats me, and I'm dead. Well, I'm not dead. I'm the lion. You're dead.
This is a documentary, yes, very much so.
Of a paper selling office.
Of a mid-tier regional paper supply office. Because I don't know if they make the paper. I think they just sell the paper.
They don't... I don't know.
Like, do they have a mill?
They do.
Does Dunder Mifflin have a mill? Like a paper mill?
That's a good question. Do we... I don't even know if we ever find that out.
I don't know.
The lore now of Dunder Mifflin is what I need to know.
They might seriously just be a middleman between the milling companies.
The makers, and then they sell.
Yeah.
They buy and then they sell it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Which makes it even more depressing and boring.
It kind of does.
Because they. And we're back with the office season 1. That's your life. That's my.
I hate that you keep trying to do the Scott.
That's my Michael Scott.
Your Michael Scott is so. Oh boy.
This.
Do we have to keep doing the Dunder Mifflin?
Mark up the audio here. Whoever is editing the show. Great theme, though.
No, it is a good theme. I'll give him that.
It fits very well.
It really does.
I don't know why it fits very well, but it does fit really well. This is episode 3 from season 1 of The Office, season 1. It is Health Care, and it is directed by Ken Whittingham, written by Paul Lieberstein, also known as Toby Flenderson. Rachel, as per usual, will you please give us what you would say happens in healthcare?
So healthcare is about Michael Scott having to choose a new health insurance for the office.
That's it. All these office episodes have very similar simple
like Seinfeld.
Plots. Yes.
Yes. It's kind of like simple plot, very boring plot, but shenanigans.
Shenanigans ensue. It's all about the characters interacting is what you get.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm going to say this for this one in particular because of what the topic is. Now, I don't know if this is a direct copy from the UK version or not, but being the US and picking a healthcare plan for your employees, this would not fall to the regional manager of the paper company.
I wouldn't think so.
Whoever's
in HR, that's who would have to do it.
This is an HR job at the corporate headquarters.
Right.
Because companies would want to choose something to scale at cost for all of the regions. They're not going to be different.
Each region has something different.
No, that's asinine. So it's a ridiculous plot because it would not happen.
But if you're thinking it's coming from the UK version, maybe that's how it works.
I don't know.
know.
True, but I just don't know if it's something because it's relatable to have to think about healthcare and health insurance and what plan your company is going to be on and cutting costs for the health insurance and the companies wanting to do that. I wonder if it's unintentionally, because I don't think it was the intention of the writers to show this because Michael Scott is the one picking out the health insurance.
Right.
But I wonder if it's unintentionally showing how poorly ran Dunder Mifflin is.
Oh, that could be part of it, maybe.
That they're not picking the same health plan across the board and not having an HR person that understands benefits doing it.
Right.
I don't know.
Because Toby exists. Toby's here. Like, why isn't Toby doing it?
Right.
Like,
yeah, it would be Toby.
I mean, we all know he hates Toby, but still.
But it would be Toby with the other HR reps across.
Yeah.
Like
they would all be discussing.
Yeah.
This.
Like it almost makes it feel like and Jan is still competent in season 1, But it almost feels like...
She seems so.
Yeah, like, are they trying to say, like, oh, Jan is... Somebody told Jan to do it, so Jan's pushing it off to Michael? Like, I don't know.
Why would you? You know Michael's incompetent.
Yeah.
Why the hell would you tell him to do this?
Even when Jan goes off the deep end and becomes insane, she still knows Michael's an idiot. So she would not have him do it.
Right.
So anyway, yes, that is the plot. It's Michael is supposed to pick out a healthcare plan, and he can't do it because he knows it's going to piss people off. Because the whole point of it is to cut costs because they're all afraid of losing their jobs because the company is not doing well.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it.
Let's
healthcare.
go. Let's do it.
I can't remember if I said healthcare aired on April 5th, 2005. So where were you on April 5th, 2005? You were at Mom and Dad's, I would assume.
I would assume probably in school.
As I've stated, I watched both. I watched this two ways. I watched this on the DVDs to get the theatrical experience, if you will, the premiere experience, and then I watched it on the Superfan edit on the cock, like you did. So I've got
Can
both...
we not call it the cock? It was gross when we were watching wrestling the other day, and the guy was like, right here on the cock. And I was like, I don't need to hear this. I don't like how it sounds.
So
why would they call it this?
So we were watching it on the P, and I don't know what to tell you. That's what it's called.
Anyways, you were watching it on the cock.
Yeah. And I only say that because when I watch it on Peacock, it just goes right into the episode. Well, it gives you shitty commercials, and then it goes right into the episode, if you have our version of it. But on the DVD, it starts with the Universal logo, because it's a Universal property from NBC. And all I wrote down when I saw that Universal logo was, how come there's no rides for The Office at Universal Studios?
Why?
I think there
and
could
how?
Be...
And what?
Okay, I will tell you. Miss Fancy Pants. This is actually a really easy ride to construct. It's one of those Transformers / Spider-Man rides where you're in the car and there's the 3D wall, except you're going through the office and you have to I don't know exactly what you have to do, but like you can go through the warehouse.
Are you trying to collect Dundees or something?
Oh, now that is an excellent.
So now it's a little bit more like Men in Black, and now you're trying to get the Dundees.
I like that idea too, actually.
And you're fighting off all of Dwight's characters.
Oh yes, yeah. Now that actually
and
makes
his family.
sense. Yeah, you have to. You're instead of like the laser gun, it's paper airplanes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and it shoots out like a fake paper airplane at the screen. That could be something. So I don't know. I think it's a good idea to have some sort of ride at Universal Studios. So I mean, Comcast, NBC, Universal Studios, let us know. Yeah, I'm open to designing.
This ride sounds ridiculous
and
but,
stupid, but wouldn't
I'd
you?
Ride it.
I'd ride it.
I want my Dundee at the end, darn it.
I never wrote. Yeah. Okay. Now. Okay. This is getting cut. Now remember at the end of the Transformers ride where Optimus Prime calls you brave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want that at the end of the or at the end of the Harry Potter ride where they're all standing there applauding for you.
You
Yeah.
did it.
That's what I want at the end of this ride. I want them all standing there applauding.
All of the Office people,
Yeah.
like holograms of them.
Yeah. And one of them calling you brave.
Kevin would do it.
Yes,
Like,
he
how-
would.
to Kevin.
100%.
You were so brave.
Yes, he'd be like Hagrid at the beginning of the Hagrid roller coaster ride.
Yes.
Now we've got something. We've got like 3/5 of a ride idea. This episode starts with Michael asking Pam for messages. Pam. Pam and Lamb a Dig Dog. Making copies. I keep wondering if we have to explain some of these references for our younger listeners.
Ooh, true. Yeah. Well, I mean, they still have copy machines and fax machines at offices. So if any of our younger viewers listen, like actually go to work at an office, they would understand.
But the making copies bit is from Rob Schneider in the 90s. You didn't even know that, did you? Making copies.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he had a character. Rob Schneider had a character in the early 90s on SNL that was just this guy that would sit by the copy machine and he would be like, the Brent man, the Brentmeister, making copies. That was the character. Yeah, so that is what Michael Scott is referring to there.
Well, we both learned something, new
Yes.
generation, and
See,
myself.
folks at home, now I have to do it every single fucking time because Rachel didn't know that reference. So get ready for it. This is why we're here.
Okay.
This is the kind of
Look,
stuff
for
that...
me, SNL isn't on the shelf, so of course I'm not going to know that reference.
Yeah, it's really not. This is what you get out of our Office episodes that Angela Kinsley and Jenna Fisher don't give you on The Office Ladies. Oh, we're going to tell you about all the behind-the-scenes shit. I don't care. I care about two nobodies breaking down these jokes,
That's right.
telling me why it's funny. Fuck you, that's why.
There's a poster behind Pam's head that says, "It's that time of year again.
Yeah,
all hands meeting." What the
It's
hell
in
is
the
that
last
mean?
few episodes of this season, and
It's on a Saturday.
I've never read it. Yeah, I don't know what it is. And it looks like it's
In the
signed
morning.
by people.
No, that's just little leaves or something, you know.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
I
like
can't...
hands shaking at the top, and then there's leaves on the side.
Okay. I couldn't
I'm sorry,
quite tell
I
what
was
it
just looking at what that was. I was curious. What the hell is the picture of? I thought it was a T-Rex for a second.
I mean,
It's
there's little junk. It's a very well-designed set.
yes.
And it being Greg Daniels, of course, there is the Homer, because he was from the Simpsons, and you get all that good stuff.
But so Scott comes up to Pam.
Scott comes up to Pam and asks her for his messages, and she's like, I already gave them to you. And then she's like, oh, wait, do you want me to do it again and points at the camera, because clearly Michael is doing a lot of things in the office just for the camera.
Right. It's like, because you have to remember that they're actually in like a documentary
Right.
about their office,
Yes.
and it's not like breaking the fourth wall. It's a documentary.
Yes, there's no...
So
Is there no fourth wall in a documentary? Is that how that works? I can't remember. Or the cameraman is like the surrogate audience, I guess, or something. The camera is the audience. I don't remember.
I suppose. I don't really know how
But
that
it
works.
is. There is no fourth wall because it's a 360 office.
Right. So whenever they're talking to you, it's just because it's a documentary.
Right. I think only The Office gets away with that. I think Modern Family and Parks and Rec don't. But when we get to Parks and Rec, and when we do like the holiday specials, because we're not doing Modern Family, but when we do the holiday specials for Modern Family, we'll talk about it. I'm not putting Modern
Oh, yeah,
Family on the list.
because they sit on the couch and talk, don't they?
Yeah, they do the same thing. They do their soliloquies. But I think of Parks and Rec, it's not really a mockumentary. I think it's more of just a soliloquy to the audience, like more like a Greek play, where
Yeah, I could see.
they're
I
just
like that
they're
idea.
talking to the audience almost in their head, as opposed
Right.
to a documentary. It feels more like that because they never acknowledge that it's a documentary.
They don't, and like it's not like weird stuff happens while they do their little soliloquies
Yeah,
either.
exactly. And I think
Like with this, like when they talk to the camera, sometimes stuff
sometimes
is happening
people
in the
come
background,
in
or like
yeah,
interrupt
yeah,
them,
yeah.
and
There's boom mics. Like there's
right.
the
camera runs
Yes,
places and it's
yes.
bouncing
Yeah.
and
It's clearly a documentary, but in Parks and Rec,
Right.
it's not. I think it's
No.
it might have
It's a
wanted
play.
it wanted to be that way, but I think it veers.
I
from
like
that.
I like the idea of it being more of a play.
Yeah.
For Parks and Rec.
Me too. And I know that might not be
It feels
true, but
better.
in headcanon, that's how I.
You know, I'm. You know, the problem is you always create headcanons for me, and now that is just boom right there.
It'll improve the show, though. It'll make it better for you. even more better.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I'll tell you about those tears later.
Yeah. Okay. So Michael talks about how important his job is, because his mission in life is to make it so that his stupid, pointless job has meaning. That's what his whole shtick is, right? He talks about how he has to pick a great new healthcare plan, and does that make him their doctor? Well, yes, in a way, like a specialist. So he's ready to try to come up with the new healthcare plan. Jan is there to ask Michael which one he's chosen, because obviously he waited till the very last minute to decide what healthcare plan to get. And Michael dim-wittingly picks the gold plan. It's got the acupuncture and the massages and all sorts of stuff.
Which apparently wasn't even on the list that you
It begs the... Well, I was going to say it doesn't beg the question of why does she even have it. But, like, if you've ever for those of you that have office jobs or that have, had to choose or not choose a healthcare plan. I mean, maybe there are HR people out there that can let us know, but if you've ever been given, like, here are your options for the healthcare plan.
Right.
There
They give you
usually
a
is,
few
like,
different
here's
tiers.
the gold and silver. And so I bet he just was supposed to pick a lower tier, and he didn't. Like, he could have just said, oh, well, then the silver then. And maybe Jan would have gone along with it because she would have been like, fine, whatever. It's better than what you picked.
Yeah, but that's not how Michael works.
No, of course not. I'm just saying, like... I'm just saying, like, what a competent manager who doesn't want to piss his office off might have done is tried to negotiate with Jan right there by picking, like, the
Like,
plan
what is the he could have been like, how would we discuss this? What is the highest I can go?
Exactly.
Because that's what I want
Yeah,
for
give
my
me some
people.
guidelines of
I
how
want them to
high I
have
can
the
go.
highest, not
Yeah,
the lowest.
Exactly. Yes. But Michael is a moron.
Yeah, he's completely
And we haven't found out that Jan is a crazy person yet.
also.
Well, I'm going to give them more credit than I think you or I have ever really given The Office a lot of credit.
Uh-oh.
Going back to watch these season 1 episodes, there's a decent character arc for a lot of these characters. A lot of the main characters. Some of the secondary characters don't have arcs as much as they just go batshit insane. But...
Right.
And you could say that's the effect of The Office on them and having a documentary crew on them at all times.
Yeah, but then they don't play into that.
I
If they played
I
into
know,
that kind
I know.
of thing,
I know.
then yes,
I'm just
I would
saying,
like that
I'm just
more.
saying you could do that. Jan reiterates that they are doing this to save money. So they're supposed to pick the cheapest, just pick a plan, pick the cheapest option and go with it. And I do love when Michael starts having a fit because he's like, that's not going to be very popular. And he calls it the popular decision around the old orifice. Instead of office, he calls it an orifice. Sometimes a manager has to give bad news, Jan tells him. And he's like, oh yeah, when's the last time you had to? And she's like, I'm doing it right now. I do like that. She kind of points out, like, yeah, I'm doing that to you right now.
Right now.
Now Michael has his objective here, his marching orders, where he has to figure out what plan to give.
Right.
But he doesn't want to take responsibility for it, so we'll see what happens. Michael calls Jim into his office, and he tries to pawn this off on Jim, because he's saying he has an unbelievably busy day, and the camera cuts to a stack of nothing. and Jim's looking at it too. And Jim says he should concentrate on sales. He does not want to have anything to do with it at all.
Which, I mean, honestly, he's right.
He's right. He shouldn't. This is
not his job.
Exactly. That's why this episode is, like, so strange, because nobody's like, shouldn't HR be doing this?
Right.
Nobody thinks that. They all are like, this one and basketball this season, where Dwight gets responsibility to do stuff that he shouldn't have any responsibility to do, and no one in the office goes to Toby or to Jan and is like, why the fuck is Dwight making these decisions?
Right.
But
well, I mean, in this one, we'll get to it, but once Jan finds out...
yes, that's true. Yes.
Then it's like, wait a minute. Even though I don't even think Scott should be getting this, but that's fine. Toby's not even involved at all.
No.
It's just like,
I don't know if they've
so
established what
infuriating.
Toby does yet. Like, maybe that's the problem, but
I guess.
still, like,
Yeah, because I mean, you can tell Michael hates him already, so I would assume he's HR, but no offense to any HR people.
Jim tells Michael Dwight should do it, and Michael, they, like, cut immediately to Dwight doing, like, yes, like, I'm immediately ready to do it. So
Right, because he'll do anything Scott says,
Yes.
or Michael says, because of
he's
that.
a sycophant. He's a sycophant, authoritarian sycophant. So he's somebody that just sucks up and sucks the authoritative tit, and thinks that everyone should just listen to authority no matter what.
I think I'm definitely Stanley in this office.
Yeah, you for sure are, Sam. I'll be Creed, I guess. I mean, I'm probably more.
You wanna be crazy
I'm probably
Creed?
I'm probably more Toby than anything, but
I think you are.
so.
Well, you're not Kevin for Kevin. You can't be Kevin.
I don't make a good bowl of chili.
No, you don't.
I'm gonna
No,
try.
well,
I'm gonna try.
I feel like you could. I
think
feel like
could.
you could.
I think I could make a good bowl of chili. Folks at home, give us your chili. You know what?
We're not even on that episode.
No. Hold on. Because I know by the time that this is aired, we've done our food bracket, our shelf life food madness. Chili should be one of those.
Ooh,
Yeah.
a chili
We might need
one.
people's recipes to do a chili cook-off.
That would be fun. I'll make your recipes and then we'll try them.
Yeah. So anyway, God, we are on a tangent roll tonight. We get an infamous quote from Jim, one of his most famous quotes from The Office. He says, "Right now, this is just a job. And if he goes any farther in this company, it will be a career. And if it becomes a career, he's going to have to throw himself in front of a train." Keep that in mind for the next 10 years.
Well, his thoughts change. He gets older.
Yeah, he gets responsibilities. He gets owner. Yeah. I also think that this might be one of the first questions from Dwight, where he has to ask a question from Michael before getting his question, which I have taken up into my own vernacular. I kind of do that to people now, as well.
No, I think I do that sometimes too. Well, if I have a question for somebody, I go question.
I'll IM somebody on
I
teams
ask,
that go
Is
question.
that because of Dwight?
Yeah.
Maybe it is because of Dwight.
I don't know. It might be. It very well might be. There you go, Rachel.
I mean, I'm not surprised I got stuff from The Office.
No.
Look, I got stuff from everything. Literally everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Even when we get to Family Guy, I have stuff from Family Guy, even though I despise that one.
Yes, of course. You'd have to. So Dwight wants to fire people, and he wants to use the conference room as a temporary workspace. And him and Michael debate over whether or not it's an office or a temporary workspace.
Right.
And some good back and forth here where he says it's bigger than Michael's, and Michael's like, then you can't do it. And he's like, fine, temporary workspace. And
Right.
Dwight puts up a sign that says Dwight Schrute temporary workspace. There is a cutaway to Michael talking to the camera where he says that if Dwight screws this up, this is strike 2. And I kept wanting to know what strike 1 was.
Was it in one of the previous episodes, or is it
I
just,
don't
like,
think
previous,
so.
like, we
It's just
don't know.
something
don't
we
get to know what
haven't.
that
Yeah, I
is?
think it's something we haven't heard about. So
Yeah, I would like to know what strike 1 is as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be anything though, because it's Dwight.
true. Yeah, it could
And
be something very
sometimes, like,
simple.
Michael's just like, oh my god, he's driving me nuts. Like,
yes. So Dwight has his temporary workspace. We get Dwight has he's passing out handouts of the plan that he's chosen. Yeah, a memo, which is a strange
I have never
way.
gotten a memo.
Really? I've gotten memos. You've gotten memos, but they've been like emails sent to the entire company, I bet. Of like,
But we don't call them memos.
no, but that's kind of what they are.
Is that what a memo is?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it would be. Like, if you had a structure change or something, or somebody was hired into an important position, or somebody was retiring, like, they might send out, like, a company-wide memo, but it's an email.
I guess that would be a memo.
Yeah, it's the
you're
same
right.
thing. It's what a memo
It's
used
just not.
to be.
Yeah, it's just not paper form
Yeah.
where it's like handed to you or
Well,
put on your desk.
It's a paper
Here's your
company,
memo.
they have to keep up appearances and hand out the paper. I can't imagine getting a handout, though, with my new healthcare plan in it, because that makes absolutely no sense.
Well, I mean, I could see like a packet. Like, here's your packet.
Yeah,
of,
you'd
like,
want a
all the
pamphlet of, like,
information.
what's in here, what's in this. But I guess because Dwight has slashed it to be so bare bones that there's probably not a lot to say.
It's literally just one page.
Yeah, I mean, at some point Stanley and Oscar talk about it, and Stanley's like, there's no vision, there's no dental, and
Yes.
there's a $1,200 deductible. So
Yeah, it's
it's
outrageous.
a terrible plan, yeah. There is a cut scene, a deleted scene, where Jim and Pam have stolen Dwight's trash can, and
Yes.
they are going through a bunch of Dwight's drafts of what he was going to
Yes.
call the workspace. I like Schrute Space. That was a good one.
Schrute Space is a good one. Schrute Space is a good one. I like the font, especially, considering it's got that medieval font.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's got that
yeah.
medieval font.
I do like the quiet one, though, as well.
Yes!
Quiet!
Quiet. Dwight Schrute at work. Or Dwight Schrute working, I think is what it is, but it should be Dwight Schrute at work.
I like Dwight Schrute at work.
Yeah. There are a bunch of shots of people in the office after Dwight hands all these out, where there's people looking depressed, and they're thinking about how terrible all of the benefits are that they have now. So you get this general malaise around the office. The Office, at least the first seasons, was very good at having that like quiet, calming malaise of everything. It was kind of good. Michael, now knowing that the team is going to be upset, calls Pam from his office.
Well, I don't know if he knows the team's going to be upset because he hasn't even seen Dwight's plan.
He gave Dwight instructions to cut costs.
Oh, yeah, true.
So no matter
he
what...
already knew that they were going to be upset, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Somebody was going to get some costs cut.
I just assumed he was calling Pam to kind of feel out if they
exactly.
were upset.
No, that's true. That's true. Maybe that's a better way to describe it. Yeah. He calls Pam and he asks her how everybody is doing because he doesn't want to leave the office because he knows somebody's going to confront him about it.
Right.
And the second that Pam says something about like, well, Dwight just sent out this memo, he tries to feign a phone call. That
I love this.
It's like Pam's like, there is no phone call because she gets all of the calls to transfer to him, and then he tries to do it again like an idiot, and so he does it twice.
Right.
That's a good bit. That's a good like Michael Scott is like an incompetent person.
I mean, honestly, all he had to do was say, "Oh, cell phone."
That's true. Yes. Yeah. But he's not.
But he didn't think
of it.
He's
quick-witted.
like, no.
He can't. He can't think that quickly. He's terrible at improv.
Plus, Pam knows he's trying to,
Yes.
She knows he's trying to avoid it.
Absolutely. And we find out later that he's terrible at thinking on the spot. So
yes,
this first season too, they haven't quite gotten to the point where they can give Michael any good attributes because they want once they have to make him like a good salesman, then they have to actually make him competent in something. But at this point, he's just an idiot. Pam and Jim go to confront Dwight. I like this scene because Jim and Dwight are going back and forth doing their like typical sibling thing where Jim just keeps teasing him,
poking at each other,
and Pam like grabs Jim's arm and goes, okay. Like I like that she's like okay, stop. Like I actually,
because this is actually something.
This is actually serious. I have to actually figure this out. So I just like Jenna Fisher plays it
very
really
subtle pause.
Yeah, Jenna Fisher plays it really well. Like it is like okay, like you guys can tease him later. Like I actually have to get this out of the way. Pam says everything is cut, and Jim tells him he cut more than he needed, which is true. He did cut more than he needed. So why are they doing this?
Why?
And Dwight says
just give the max possible.
Yeah,
that's it.
Dwight says he doesn't need insurance. He can control his health through willpower, and he can raise and lower his cholesterol. And I wondered if the good cholesterol was a thing in 2005. I'm assuming it was, because it's not that long ago.
Potentially.
But Pam asked why he would want to raise his cholesterol, and he goes, so I can lower it. But I thought a better answer would have been like...
I mean, you don't really want high any cholesterol, I don't think.
But you want a higher of the LDL? Is that the good one? I can't remember which one is good. People in the orifice try to confront Michael.
Well, hold on. Before you start doing that, it's been a while since I actually sat down and watched The Office.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
And concentrated on it.
Yes. And I forgot how weird Dwight is. Like, I thought he was just, like, this interesting character. But he's weird.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. Like, he comes across differently than he did when I first watched The Office.
Okay.
Kind of creeps me out.
Yeah, I mean, he is creepy, and he's like a super dork authoritarian nerd.
I don't even know if I would call him a dork or a nerd.
Yeah, I mean, he likes the fantasy genre and anime and stuff. Like he is.
I know, but they want him. I feel like they want him to come across as that very high end super nerd.
Yeah.
Dork person, but I feel like he goes a different direction. But maybe that's just me.
No, I mean, he does come off as creepy. He comes off as the guy that will
shoot the office.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
It creeps me out.
Yes. He's definitely on a list somewhere. If you're one of his coworkers, you're kind of worried about him, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like when they're trying to figure out when they can confront Michael, and Kevin goes, "He's gonna have to come out sometime to go to the bathroom." And he starts laughing, and Angela calls him inappropriate. It's just...
But he's right!
He is right. It's just... Kevin's humor is always funny. This is before he becomes mentally handicapped. This is when he's still just kind of a bumbling...
Was he? I thought he never really was. I thought
he's not really mentally handicapped, but they make him like Peter Griffin levels of stupid by the end of the show.
Well, and Peter Griffin, in that, they even say he is mentally
and in this, I think he's kind of secretly really smart and kind of genius. He just...
Oh, no, I do think
he tries to do the bare minimum to get by. Like, you know what I mean? Like...
He's just a big oaf.
Yeah.
I don't think he's, like, stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think they would keep him around if he was, like, screwing everything up.
Right. Well, Michael would, but he, you know...
Yeah, that's true.
They surround him after he comes out of the bathroom, and he tries to get back to his office, and Michael tries to blame Dwight, and Dwight is like, "But you told me to make cuts," and he's like, "I don't want to hear it, find these people a good healthcare plan," and he walks back in the office.
And then he just hides again.
So Michael tells them all at the end of the day he will have a big surprise for them.
Like, why?
Well, he even says, "I don't have any surprise planned."
Right.
But they all think that something's coming, and that's enough. And he doesn't understand that you have to come through with your promises to your employees,
right.
or they're going to completely mistrust you entirely. It's just ridiculous. I love the little moment of Angela berating Oscar for letting Michael get away, and he's like, "What am I supposed to do?" And Dwight comes back out with a new plan. This time, he's going to have them write out a survey of what needs to be covered, and he'll see what can be done. And he's going to leave it anonymous. This is, again, not how health insurance works.
No.
This is not how any of this works.
No, it is. It's really truly like they took a plan and like pulled it completely apart, and it's just like, okay, you could take the little pieces of each instead of like, this is the package.
Yeah.
This is what you get.
Yeah.
In this one. This is the other package. This is what you get in this one.
Yeah.
It's like he's literally going, I want these few little things, and that's it.
And most of the time, it's not like, oh, this will cover diabetes. This will cover medication up to a certain point with this kind of a copay. Like, it's just not how this shit works.
I mean, there
So
are pieces like with like dental, like, oh, it won't cover a root canal.
Yeah, it won't
but
cover
you could
braces
get
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. You don't really know that as a... I guess that could be something, but yeah, I don't know if it really is. But anyway, it's a setup for the next bit. So Michael leaves and heads to a travel agency to see if he can get some sort of trip for the office. In the extended part, in the Superfan cut, he asks first for trip to Montreal, or the travel agent comes up with a trip to Montreal, which would cost $500 a person for the office. And of course, Michael can't afford that. So he's like, what about like this Atlantic City thing where everything is comped and you get a big pile of chips? And everything is comped and free, and he's like, that's not a thing. And he's like, maybe you should call those casinos directly. And he's like, yeah, I did that already. So it's like, why is he even there?
It's so weird. I guess just to see if he could like swindle them, but it's so weird.
Michael is eternally optimistic in that he thinks that at some point someone is just going to give him what he's asking for. You have to admire that.
Do I?
In a way, sort of. So we go back to the office, and everyone's filling out Dwight's form. Jim has circled everything. And then there's like an other section, so he wrote down Ebola and mad cow.
Yes.
Pam is making up fake diseases to write down. So do you remember what the fake diseases were, Rachel, that she comes up with?
So we have... There's the one where your teeth turn to liquid and it goes down your throat, which was, I think then Jim actually named that one spontaneous dentohydroplosion.
That's right, yes. It's a real thing. It happens.
Honestly, that sounds horrifying. Not gonna lie.
Well, that's like the dream thing, right? Like, don't people have dreams where...
People's like where their teeth fall out.
Yeah, where their
and
teeth
stuff,
fall out.
yeah.
So that's kind of like a, maybe that's where they got it from. I don't know.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Hot dog.
Instead, they just turned to liquid.
Some of the other ones that they write down, and I think this was all Pam writing them down, but I think
Yeah,
some of...
she was doing it all.
Okay.
She
So,
was doing it.
Some of the other ones, hot dog fingers,
Yep.
government-created killer nanorobot infection, inverted penis, which we...
Well, that's-
Well, yeah, we'll get there. Count Choculitis. Which I love when Dwight confronts Jim about it, and he's like, I know,
Yes.
did you write that because I love Count Chocula? And Jim's like, do you?
Wait, do you? Like, oh, that's actually weird, I think, for a shroot to really, like,
Yeah,
Count Chocula.
yeah, I do too.
Just
I
gonna
do
point
too.
that one out.
I think he should just eat a beet in the morning. That should be his breakfast. A breakfast of like a raw beet.
I mean, if it was gonna be cereal, one, it's gonna be the milk from his cow,
Yes.
and then I feel like it's just like a bran. Like he made
Yes.
it with his own wheat.
That's right. Yeah,
Like, there's no way he's gonna have cocoa powder in there.
That's
I'm
right.
Just saying.
I would not disagree with you about that. But maybe he just had it one day as like, and he's like, I do love Count, like he splurged. That's like
Oh,
his
yeah.
splurge as he gets
Ooh,
Count
yeah.
Chocula.
Maybe that is like his like big deal. I got you.
Michael is sitting in his Sebring and he's asking if his team could get a trip. He's got a client friend.
He calls a client.
Yeah, who has he's like, I wanted to see if I could get on your big ride, and he's like, the elevator that goes down to the coal mine. He thinks
I thought at first this was actually like a mining company where they are like it is currently like they are miners.
yeah.
But this is like a museum of like a old mining.
Yeah. It would have been something.
area.
It would have been better than nothing to
Yeah,
be
it
like,
sounds
I want to take us to
interesting.
go see the old coal mine.
Yeah, like, oh, I got us a whole trip to go see the coal mine, and we get to go down the elevator even and see the shaft and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But he was bored by it, so he
Yeah,
was like,
he got
no.
bored by it. He was like, "This isn't big enough." So he's like, "I love when he's like, so what do you do when you get down there? Is there like laser tag or something?" And
Like, why would honestly sounds kind of cool.
That actually
going down
sounds
to
really
a mine
awesome.
and playing
Yeah.
laser tag.
if there is anybody out there,
horrifying and cool.
I think it'd be pretty sweet. Like if there's anybody out there that can, if you could structurally make it so it's not too unsafe. In fact,
Oh, yeah, it
all
can't
right,
be
you know
unsafe.
what? I'll tell you right now. It's another Universal Studios idea. You make a fake elevator, and you make it
Right.
seem like you're going down into
Yes.
a mine shaft. And at the end, there's this laser tag. But really, it was your perspective. It made you think
Exactly.
you went all the way down.
Right.
Somebody could do that. We could do that.
Oh yeah, they could easily do that.
Yeah.
And then they make it sound like every once in a while like rocks like tumble on the walls, so it sounds like it's like coming apart.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it could collapse, and
It's a great.
you're fighting your way out and everything.
Yeah,
and,
I think it'd be great.
yeah, it could be fun. We're coming up with some good games today. I
Yeah,
like this.
we're all full of good ideas. Hits every time here on Shelf Life. Michael tries to say that this is improv. This is whose line is it anyway? I know you know whose line is it anyway, Rachel, but it was a.
Yes,
I mean, it
of
was
course.
that was a British show first too, and then it became.
I
an
think they
American
only
show.
just stopped doing it because they were.
There's
they traveled,
no
like,
way they were still doing.
were
whose
traveling
line
and
is
still
it
doing it.
anyway?
Yes.
Not with Drew Carey.
No, but like Ryan and
Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery and
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
Wayne Brady was on it a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, that show was fun to
Still
watch.
says present. It still says present.
That's insane.
Which I know that they were doing a lot more like traveling show, and I thought that they had like their last season and that it was like going to be ending.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That was a fun show to watch as a kid, but I feel like I would hate improv as an adult. I feel like I'd be like so annoyed by it.
Going to an improv show, maybe. I think I could still watch Whose Line Is It Anyways?
I don't know.
With like those characters.
I don't
think
know.
I could watch it with new people.
And Michael fails spectacularly at trying to come up with a improv that he set up
He just
himself.
stops.
Yeah.
He sets up the improv of like the actual situation he's in, which is probably the worst thing he could have done. He should have done something simple to get his mind moving.
Right.
And it just nothing, emptiness. And he goes, well, if I was on a stage, it would be better. And I'm like, you didn't even do anything.
Dwight gets mad about them making up diseases, and the office starts to laugh as they come up with fake ones. I think hot dog fingers, Pops, Angela, and Kevin.
Yeah.
And he says he's going to interview them all until he finds out there'll be no health coverage for anybody, which is a hilarious threat when he knows like it's
what?
for 4 hours. Yeah.
Right.
All right, who did this? I'm not mad. I just want to know who did it so I can punish them.
What are you talking about?
Someone forged medical information, and that is a felony.
Okay, whoa. All right, because that's a pretty intense accusation.
Yeah.
How do you know that they're fake?
Leprosy, flesh-eating bacteria, hot dog fingers, government-created killer nanorobot infection. You did this, didn't you?
Absolutely not.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
I know it was you. Okay, fine. You know what? I'm gonna have to interview each and every one of you until the perpetrator makes him or herself known. And until that time, there will be no healthcare coverage for anyone.
I found it even weirder, though, is that, like, he goes, leprosy and flesh-eating bacteria. Yeah, those are real.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he's thinking, like,
and then
nobody
he
here
goes
has
into,
it.
like, the weird stuff, like the nanobots and the sausage fingers and stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, because he thinks nobody here has it, so it's not real. It's like something that you want to
I guess.
cover that's not real.
Yeah. I guess that's what he means. Fine.
In
It
the-
would be funnier if he actually thought, like, the sausage fingers and stuff was, like, a real thing.
Yeah,
Or hot dog
yeah,
fingers.
I
I keep saying
suppose.
sausage now.
So in the supercut, Dwight interviews Oscar, who tells him he's going to report him to HR, and Dwight
Yes.
responds with, I'll report you. And he talks about how there's going to be a difference because he can't goof off anymore because he's a superior. I like this part of the supercut because he interviews Pam.
Yes.
And he interviews Pam in a way to tell Pam that she doesn't need the health insurance because she's going to be on Roy's health insurance. Now, why Roy, who also works for Dunder Mifflin,
Right.
and also
well,
works...
the warehouse, though, is separate from the office space.
But it's not!
It's not.
It's not!
But in
This is
Dunder Mifflin, that is
insane!
how this works.
This is not how it works! This is not how it works. So, yes. But in this universe, I guess this is how it works. So, I can't tell here if Dwight figured out that it was Pam, that it wasn't Jim, but he starts to get on her because he's like, you've been engaged for 3 years, there's no way that you haven't set a date, so there's no way that, like, you don't really need this health insurance, so you're just screwing around. And Pam, because this is her, hot button issue for Pam, this is kind of her triggering point, she gets upset that she hasn't
Set a date for the
set a
wedding
date.
everything.
And because Dwight's being Dwight, he's like, admit it. And she just, like, walks out of the room mad. And Jim sees that she does this, so that's why he goes in and kind of confronts Dwight. Like, in the television edit, you don't get that. You just get Jim is already in there talking to Dwight, and it makes it seem like Dwight interviewed Jim first, when in reality he was eliminating everybody else first.
Yeah, so this is where, like, this is a good cut to keep in.
Yeah.
To make that a little bit more understanding, to show how Jim will...
Jim did something
run
for
in and try to
Pam.
save something.
Yeah. I also like that Jim was playing solitaire. I love when you see them all, like, playing solitaire and, like, just, like, bored as shit at work. That's always great. This is where we get the Count Chocolitis. Jim locks Dwight in the conference room after this, because they go back and forth a little bit, and then Jim locks Dwight in the room. I thought it was strange that he could lock him in like that. Like, you can lock the room.
That seems very
From
poorly
the
designed,
sign?
especially for, like, like fires or something. Like,
it does
that
not
guy's
seem...
dead.
And I think it's
like...
happened multiple times in this series, too, where people get locked in the conference room.
It's got to be just, like, this is, like, a really crappy office.
Yeah.
It's just poorly designed.
Dwight calls Jim from his desk, because Jim just goes and sits back down at the desk, and tells him to let him out or he's fired. And Jim's like, you can't fire me. So then Jim starts toying with him, and then Pam calls Jim, so then he basically keeps Dwight on hold, and Dwight's just, like, hammering on the window because he can't do anything else. So Jim's gotten one up on Dwight at this point, as he should.
As per always.
Yes. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, where Jim is kind of a bully, but to, like you said, like, you can kind of... You're on Jim's side because Dwight is so weird and such a insane person.
So Dwight is that he's not the... You wouldn't think of him as a bully, typically, in like a typical sense of what a bully is, but he is a bully.
Yeah, yeah.
In the I'm superior to you.
He thinks he's better than you.
He's that superiority complex bully.
He's just...
And that is kind of why I would be on Jim's side of the way he, like, messes with him.
And he is easy to take down, too, because he's all bark, no bite. Like,
exactly.
He has no actual power or authority.
Right.
Dwight calls Jan at this point and asks for permission to fire Jim. And Jan is like, where is Michael?
Who is
this? Who are you? Where is Michael? And he's like, well, he's not here and he left me in charge. So technically I am the manager. And Dwight spills the beans on picking the healthcare plan, which is what Michael, of course, was supposed to do. So Jan tells Dwight to have Michael call her immediately, and then yells at him because he called her cell phone.
Yep.
And I want to know how did Michael give Dwight Jan's cell phone?
It could be in the directory, maybe, like where it's like the work cell phone and like the work office phone number. So then he probably just picked the wrong one.
I'll give you that.
But that's how I'm going to say it, because you can do the directory on the phone. If anybody has ever used a stationary phone, an office phone, usually you can get to like a directory.
So Michael comes back in with ice cream sandwiches. Phyllis, think fast.
Yeah, he just starts throwing them at people.
Now, here's the thing. As an employee, I would enjoy getting a nice ice cream sandwich. Even if it wasn't one with the cookies in it like Ryan wants. I would just eat it, okay? But after the crappy day that you've had, as Stanley points out, they're losing hundreds to potentially thousands of dollars here because of what Dwight is doing. They're getting a pay cut because of what Dwight is doing. An ice cream sandwich isn't going to cut it, especially when you've promised a surprise at the end of the day. I do like that he tries to toss one to Kevin and it goes over his head and Kevin wasn't even paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees Dwight in the office and he just doesn't even bother. And then Jim throws the ice cream sandwich at the door. I think it hits the window and it like leaves a little...
Yeah.
Another cut here where he's like, okay, fine, we're going to do this. So they're all in the conference room, and they have to say aloud their medical condition.
Which, oh my god.
Oh yeah, total would be a huge...
Toby is sitting right there! Huge HR problem. To the point where Dwight would probably get fucking fired. He should be fired. Outrageous.
Why are they going along with this? I don't know.
I guess because they really truly think, well, because if Dwight's doing this and Michael isn't stopping it and he's not even trying to do anything, they're probably thinking, well, we have to do this because we're not going to have insurance otherwise.
They're going to lose all their insurance. Yeah. I guess that's the thing. Sure.
So they're scared that they're just going to lose everything.
Number 1, inverted penis.
Could you mean vagina? Because if you do, I want that covered.
I thought your vagina was removed during your hysterectomy.
The uterus is different from a vagina. I still have a vagina.
Dwight even comes back with, I thought that you don't have a vagina because of your hysterectomy.
Which makes him sound like a complete idiot.
Well, in the next season we find out that he doesn't know what a clitoris is. So
okay, you're right. So he just doesn't know anything about a woman's anatomy because women are below him anyway, so he doesn't care.
And he's Amish, so, you know, he grew
women
up
are below him and he doesn't care.
That's right. So that's a great little moment. This is before Meredith has become the ultra skanky alcoholic of The Office.
Well, I'm to be quite honest, though, like her just being open and saying, you know, this is it's for a vagina. Like
Yeah, I guess
I feel like that's totally fine by me. I feel like she's not. I'm not beating around this right now. Like,
no, you want your vagina covered, folks at home. Make sure that your vagina is.
You
covered.
Want your vagina covered. Yeah. It's ridiculous that it wouldn't be.
That's going into the trailer. It's completely out of context.
Oh my god.
Michael is alone in his office, and I love that he's eaten like a dozen of these ice cream sandwiches.
I thought he was gonna get sick. Made me very concerned he was just gonna get sick.
Because I feel like Michael is the type of person that goes home and eats an entire pizza by himself. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? He definitely, yeah. Kevin has to admit to having anal fissures, which is also a good moment. This is before, in the supercut though, Dwight asks the women for if they need birth control, which
yes,
is so over the line.
I'm just sitting here. Everything he says is over the line. I'm like so frustrated by it. But then he like specifically calls out
the anal fissures.
No. He calls out what's her face?
About Kelly about the birth control.
He calls out Kelly about the birth control, and it's like, this is so inappropriate. I just want to slap this man in the face.
And then
I couldn't believe it.
Poor Kevin has to admit to having anal fissures, and even at that point, Dwight.
And he's so embarrassed.
I think Dwight realizes what he's done at that point.
Yes.
He looks for a second, and then he looks down like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, because he first says that's not even a real thing, and Kevin's like, that's a real thing and somebody needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're an idiot, Dwight. Come on. I'm glad that Oscar actually speaks up and goes, this is nuts. What are you doing?
He even kind of says what we were saying, where you can't. Okay, I guess this is cut out of the episode. It's only part of the supercut. But Oscar actually brings up all the points that we've been bringing up, where he's like, you can't pick a healthcare plan disease by disease. There's co-pays and deductibles and stuff, and it doesn't make any sense to do this. And Jim goes, you know what, this is pointless, I'm leaving. And
then everybody leaves.
Then they
follow.
Leave. Yeah. Dwight kind of says, fine, I'll just go with my original plan then, which I think that is cut out of the cut too, because you don't actually get him giving that. Folks at home, I think you should have the DVDs of everything, as I usually state. But you can't cut the deleted scenes back into your DVDs. So these super fan episodes on the Peacock are kind of worth it, I think. I think they kind of are. At least watch it on your DVD and then go to the Peacock.
Yeah, especially since it gives you a little bit.
It puts it back in. It edits in what you have on the DVD.
Story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not just extra. This is actually meat. This is meat you need.
Yeah. So now they all wait outside of Michael's office, and they're waiting for the big surprise. And Michael looks through the blinds all terrified.
God. I do love whenever they look through the blinds. There's something about the looking through the blinds thing that just gets me every time.
Yes. It's just a great way to shoot them, looking through the blinds. It is fun. I would do it all the time. All the time. So
I would have them closed on purpose just so I had to do it.
They confront Michael about the benefits, and he tries to pretend oh, that's horrible, you cut all these benefits, but he's like, well, I can't do anything about it now because I have to get this to Jaya. And so he tries to not take the blame for it, but everyone blames Michael for it anyway.
Because he let Dwight do it. You're an idiot.
Yeah, of course. Because why wouldn't you? He's an idiot. And then they remind him about the surprise, and Michael struggles to come up with anything. He just stands there, and as this is happening, they wait in silence for a little while, and I guess on set...
Oh, it's so awkward.
On set, they made him wait before saying cut, almost 3 minutes before saying cut, 2.5 minutes before saying cut. They were trying to make it as awkward as possible for Steve Carell and who knows if this is true or not, but to the point where they said that he was kind of sweating because it was so awkward even for him as the actor, because it was so having to be there.
Well, now
in
you're
silence.
you feel on the spot, and you're the tension.
It's almost
feeling.
It's almost wait, do they want me to come up with something? I don't know if the director
what am I
actually
supposed
wants
to be
me
doing?
to come up with something. Yeah. So they don't make you wait that long. They actually cut to him giving a testimonial where he is. Or confessional, whatever you want to call it, where he's talking about doing improv with the greats like Steve Martin and Robin Williams, and he's doing terrible improv as he's telling this. But at the end of it,
they each start leaving.
They all leave one by one, which I love that they all leave one by one. It's such an insult to him.
I do love that Kevin starts.
Kevin is the first one, to leave.
He's like, I'm not dealing with this.
And Jim's almost the last one to leave. He actually holds out hope that Michael will say something and then leaves. And I love the...
Well, he's not even looking
Yeah.
at Michael, though. He's like, I think he wants him to understand that he screwed up.
Yes, I think you're right, yeah. Well, he does, yeah. I think you're right. And then it ends in a great little manner here. I love the ending of this one where Dwight just tells Michael Jan wants him to call her.
Yeah.
It's a great little punctuation on that. And in the Superfan cut, you get him finally coming up with something, and he goes, "We're all going bowling," which would have probably been an okay
Which probably would have been at
treat.
least something.
Yeah. But they all probably
But he didn't think about it before.
And
he didn't think about it.
They
until
all
then.
wouldn't have accepted that either. They probably would have still walked out on him. But at least he would have had
but at least
something.
And I think it would have been believable for it to be bowling as his surprise.
Yes. It would have been reasonable. And that is the end of healthcare. They all end up having terrible healthcare to the point where you would go find another job. If
God, yeah. Absolutely.
Since especially in the United States, healthcare is like one of the reasons to have
Healthcare
a
sucks,
good job.
period.
Like you need to have
Even
insurance.
with a good job,
yeah.
you'll have really bad insurance.
So if you end up having a job with bad insurance, you're going to be like, I'm not going to.
What's the point of this place?
Exactly. So Rachel, what did you think of healthcare?
I forgot you were going to ask me that.
Do you want me to go first?
I feel like Michael now, like on the spot. I'm just gonna let you like sit in silence for 3 minutes while I try to think of something.
I would
Drum roll,
love.
please.
I would love. One of these days, we are gonna make our listeners sit in silence for 2.5 minutes.
There's got to be a good one where we could actually have that happen too.
For sure. I don't remember the last time I've watched this episode. Most of the time when I watch The Office, it is the background while I'm doing something else. But I thought, in my memory, that this one was going to be super dry. And it is. It's dry, because all of the season 1 episodes are. But I thought that there was a lot of nice stuff in here. There's some good interaction between Jim and Pam being cute. We get to see how far Michael will go to be loved by his employees. We see Dwight being that, like, fascist, power-hungry type of guy. And I think it's funny to see all of the employees kind of giggle and laugh at the made-up stuff that Pam comes up with. So overall, I thought it's not that bad of an episode. It's you know, we'll get to the rankings, of course, at the end of our episodes.
Yeah, I don't think it was too bad. I do think they could have maybe given a little bit more interaction with the office people. Like, I feel like we didn't get enough of their feelings. You got a lot of like what they thought through just facial expressions, but otherwise half the time they were just going along with it, and it was really like only a couple of them that spoke up. So I don't know, maybe I just wanted a little bit more interaction on that part. But yeah, I mean, it had its moments. It has its moments.
Yeah, I think it's all right. So that was healthcare.
And I just think it's the premise that was ridiculous. You know?
The premise makes absolutely no sense. It would never
Toby
happen.
was sitting right there.
Unless
HR.
This is the writers and producers coming up with a way to show how incompetent Dunder Mifflin is. And I really don't think that is what they're doing. So it is as a teenager, when I first saw this episode, I didn't think anything of it. But now understanding the world, it's like, this wouldn't have happened. This never would have happened.
Exactly.
So anyway, that is healthcare from The Office. If you're watching the shortcut, we'll see you in the next one. But if you're doing it the proper long cut version, we're going to hop over to the next conference room to get to the next meeting.
Wait, we really have to get to the other side of the office though, because they put them back to back.
Oh Christ! Okay, we gotta go then.
Like right now.
Okay, do the sign off for me.
Just go now. We'll see you guys later.
The music's playing.
Music's playing.
All right, get out of here.
Bye.
Maybe some spaghetti.
Okay, Kevin.